Chapter 783. It actually only had 20% of its strength. A lot of people were stupefied by Wang Ming's move. This armor could actually be replaced with the Spirit Power Cannon Skill Skin. This was too amazing. Now, most of the people were silent. The teachers and students who had been skeptical about this armor didn't dare say anything. Because this armor indeed couldn't be judged by common sense. Overall, it seemed that Wang Ming still had the upper hand. Teacher Wang's equipment is amazing, I want it too. But does anyone know what realm Teacher Wang was at before he put on the armor? Someone asked. Dopey Guo was blank. For the first time, he realized that there was actually something that he and his uncle didn't know. Say, if Teacher Wang was just an ordinary person and could compete with an itinerant immortal in this armor would simply be a miracle invention. On the side, Super Chin chuckled and rubbed his head. Of course, I'm just joking. Everyone who doesn't know Teacher Wang's realm, don't take it seriously. Wang Ling, the wind on the field changed as a result. It was only at this moment that many students truly realized that learning knowledge could really change one's fate. It turned out that the gap in realm, cultivation talent, and strength could be made up for with knowledge. Sure enough, knowledge was power, this was the true truth. After the first exchange of blows, the teachers in charge of maintaining order at the scene started to have the students sit down to watch this contest between the power of cultivation and science. Everyone, watch carefully and take notes. This is a rare learning opportunity. A teacher instructed them on the spot. At some point, everyone realized that a barrier like that of a martial arts arena had already been set up between Wu Zhenjuan and Wang Ming. This was a barrier created by the head of state, and it was sufficiently stable. A lot of teachers and students who didn't know the situation thought that it had probably been set up by some busybody. But even if it hadn't been set up, the teachers planned to work together to set one up. If Wang Ming's armor could really compete with an itinerant immortal's, then it would be a great battle between itinerant immortals. If a battle between true immortals got serious, it would be enough to destroy a planet. A showdown between itinerant immortals couldn't be underestimated. They were still in the remains, and if restrictions weren't put in place, the remains might be affected. In short, after the barrier was set up, it was now Wu Zhenjuan's turn to have a headache. The meaning was already very clear. He wanted him to compete with Wang Ming. Furthermore, at that moment, Wu Zhenjuan had already realized the profound significance of this competition. Compared to the significance of this competition, his title as an ace teacher suddenly seemed insignificant. Just like many people believed, this was a battle between cultivation and science and technology. Could the power of science really reach the same level as the combat power of cultivators? This was the problem, and the most crucial point was that once Wang Ming's patent was released to the public, it was bound to benefit a large number of people in the future who didn't have any talent for cultivation, but had a cultivation dream. With the commercialized and factory-produced armor, it was possible to be on equal footing with the cultivators who had been training hard for 100 years. For a true cultivator, their state of mind would definitely be affected by the difference. If one were to think further, perhaps in the end, more and more people in the world would give up cultivation and choose to wear this kind of armor. Thus, Wu Zhenjuan understood in this battle. He had to win. Even if it was for the sake of all cultivators, it looks like Teacher Wang is ready. Then, I won't be polite anymore. Thus, Wu Zhenjuan exhaled softly. The next moment, he stamped his foot lightly, and a wheel impressively appeared under his feet. Psychic spell. A teacher immediately recognized the origin of this spell. Wu Zhenjuan was actually using the psychic spell. It looked like Wu Zhenjuan was really going to get serious. Some teachers who knew Wu Zhenjuan couldn't help recalling Irascible Dharmaraja's most powerful spell back then. This spell required the cooperation of a special kind of psychic beast. Thus, the moment they saw the psychic array, a lot of the teachers were intrigued. They couldn't help recalling Irascible Dharmaraja's psychic beast back then. Furthermore, it was very obvious that what Wu Zhenjuan had summoned now was the same psychic beast that irascible Dharmaraja had summoned. As the psychic array appeared on the ground, a black spring that looked like ink gushed out of the ground, and a few seconds later, several purple lightning bolts emerged from it. Purple lightning? Standing in the air, Wang Ming gazed at the lightning bolts. They were probably going to use their ultimate move. Wang Ming already had a hunch in his heart. What kind of psychic beast is this? Outside the arena, there were still some students who didn't know the truth. Purple lightning. This is Ziwei lightning, one of the legendary 5 Yin thunders, and also the most sinister of them all. It's extremely destructive. To be able to tame a spirit beast like this, its owner must have abundant yang qi in his body. Ordinary people can't tame a spirit beast like this. Old Antique explained on the side. He didn't explain what on earth this psychic beast was, but the atmosphere was already very mysterious. Wu Zhenjuan must have suffered a lot to tame a spirit beast like this. His purpose in summoning this spirit beast is to borrow the power of its purple lightning to complete irascible Dharmaraja's ultimate move back then. This is a level 6 sound wave spell that irascible Dharmaraja created, and the conditions to learn it are very harsh. As soon as he said this, the black spring that gushed out of the psychic array had already covered the entire arena. The entire arena was filled with purple lightning, and there was no place to step at all. Wu Zhenjuan had done this on purpose. He knew that Wang Ming was relying on the power of his armor to be able to float in the air, which also consumed spirit power. Fighting continuously in the air would consume even more spirit power. Wu Zhenjuan's battle plan was very clear. Wang Ling 1, activate the omnidirectional magnetic shield. Wang Ming immediately gave the order to have the magnetic shield protect him and avoid being affected by the purple lightning on the ground. He admitted that if he had been wearing the crude version of his armor from the very beginning, he wouldn't have been able to withstand this kind of continuous consumption at all. At that moment, there were new fluctuations on the ground. Ripples appeared on the surface of the black spring. As for the spiritual beast hidden in the black spring, it had finally revealed some clues about itself. It had a large and slippery black tail, and from its appearance, it looked like a fish. Someone in the arena cried out in alarm on the spot. What the hell? Eel? Chapter 784. When the Supreme Yin Spirit Beast, the symbol of the 5 Yin Thunder, revealed itself, the students in the field burst out in cries of surprise. Being so close to the scene was like watching a special effects blockbuster up close. Furthermore, it was an omnidirectional surround sound effect, which was incomparably stunning. At school, it was already rare enough to see 2 golden core teachers duking it out. For most high school kids, this contest of strength between itinerant immortals was indeed a rare experience. Wang Ling already knew that after today's competition was over, there would definitely be a lot of students who would write about this in their summer camp diaries. This was a rare, ready-made material, and most importantly, he could fill up the number of words in the diaries. What battle between cultivators? That kind of word count was the best thing to fill up. As long as you didn't run out of words, a few hundred words was enough to fill up a skill. When 2 people used their Qigong skills, they could fill up the gaps with hundreds of words. Wang Ling had seen this kind of routine all too often. Because Father Wang was a very good example of it, there was a saying that web writers were all water, and whether or not a web writer's level could be judged depended on whether the water was happy or not. I've gone off topic, back to the battle. The purple spirit Yin eel that Wu Zhenjuan had summoned was the one that irascible Dharmaraja had tamed back then. Later, Wu Zhenjuan had inherited irascible Dharmaraja's teachings, so this 1,000-year-old purple spirit Yin eel had naturally fallen into his hands. But Wu Zhenjuan was usually unwilling to summon this purple spirit Yin eel. As a symbol of extreme Yin, the purple spirit Yin eel's tremendous Yin qi would be a huge burden on his body. Even with his primordial yang body, it would take him at least a month to recover. And the most important thing was that in this 1 month, he had to have Have. Restrict. Desire. Otherwise, the result of his primordial yang leaking out wouldn't just be a simple burden, it would also cause Wu Zhenjuan's body very troublesome after effects. And among these after effects, the most dangerous was being impotent for life. Thus, when Wu Zhenjuan had summoned this purple spirit Enil, Wang Ming had already analyzed Wu Zhenjuan's next move through the world database. This was an ultimate technique created by the irascible Dharmaraja in the past. It was also the only level 6 sound wave destruction spell that required the purple spirit Enil, Buddhist lightning myriad. Hence, this was a huge test for Wang Ming and the Wang Ling one he had created. Sound wave spells had a great advantage over other spells, and that was their short casting time. After all, some complex destruction spells took a long time to cast and cast. Hence, when the purple spirit Enil exposed its huge, glossy tail in front of everyone, Wang Ming knew that the real contest had already begun. At that moment, the entire black spring under their feet was this purple spirit Enil's territory. Using the mecha armor's insight to analyze it, Wang Ming discovered that this purple spirit Enil was over 100 zhang long and was wreathed in purple lightning, like a flood dragon in the mud. Most importantly, Wang Ming realized that this purple spirit Enil actually had 3 heads. Against a 3-headed electric eel, any female streamer would have to concede defeat. "Teacher Wang, please be careful," Wu Zhenjuan said in a low voice as a warning. The 3-headed electric eel had already swum close to him, and then actually soared into the air. Everyone watched as its thick, long, and smooth body coiled around Wu Zhenjuan. The air around them surged wildly and the black spring below them surged. In a split second, even the air started to distort as violent purple lightning mercilessly whipped the entire space in the barrier. In less than a dozen seconds after the purple spirit Enil had been summoned, the environment inside the barrier had changed dramatically, as if it were the end of the world. The space was squeezed frantically and was almost completely occupied by Wu Zhenjuan. The 30 zhang space that Wang Ming had opened up with his omnidirectional magnetic shield seemed to become the last pure land at the end of the world. A lot of people were secretly alarmed when they saw this. If Wang Ming hadn't opened up his magnetic shield at that moment, what would have happened? Wu Zhenjuan wasn't in a hurry as he slowly walked toward the purple spirit Enil's coiled body in the air. Finally, he took a deep breath and brought his mouth close. This time, even those who didn't understand how this spell worked at all could tell that this was a special, electronic version of a loudspeaker. There's this kind of operation. A lot of the teachers were stunned. Although they had long since heard about irascible Dharmaraja's Buddhist lightning combo, they were still frightened when they saw it with their own eyes. To actually use an electric eel's coiled body as a loudspeaker, what kind of amazing operation was this? At the same time, the expression of the head of state, who was secretly observing from a distance, stiffened at this scene. He could almost instinctively sense the danger of this move. "Your Excellency, head of state." Old Qi was anxious. He wasn't present, but he knew how dangerous this move was. When all was said and done, Wang Ling one was just an armor that Wang Ming had built himself outside. There was no way of knowing how strong it was without the use of the official computer simulation data. President Qi was worried that Wang Ming would be completely defeated by Wu Zhenjuan's move. After all, Huaxiao Alliance's logistics department had just returned the coffin that had been custom-made for Wang Ming. "No hurry, I'm here." In the end, the head of state shook his head and didn't stop him. Because he didn't sense Wang Ming's panic at all. For Wang Ming, this enhanced version of the electronic megaphone was indeed something he hadn't expected at first. According to the analysis of the data in the world database, although irascible Dharmaraja had summoned the purple spirit Enil back then and combined it with the purple lightning to cast the Buddhist lightning combo, it hadn't been used like this. Wu Zhenjuan had obviously modified this move, and he hadn't used it for a very long time. This was why Wang Ling one couldn't analyze it. "Teacher Wang, you've already lost," Wu Zhenjuan said to the loudspeaker made of electric eels. This wasn't the official Buddhist lightning combo, and was just a normal question, but it had already created an extremely powerful sound wave. Wu Xinjuan's voice seemed to come from beyond the heavens as it reverberated endlessly in the barrier space, and the ear-piercing sound waves caused many students and teachers to cover their ears. They didn't directly receive this power. Because of the barrier, 99% of the power of Wu Xinjuan's sound waves was contained within it. Even so, this ear-piercing sound wave was still unbearable for many of the students and teachers present. To them, it felt like a cat scratching at a blackboard. Fortunately, the head of state had set up this barrier himself. If it had been set up by the other teachers, it would have already exploded. Not necessarily. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Wang Ming directly responded indifferently. Chapter 785. Was it a spirit power cannon? Wu Xinjuan narrowed his eyes and gazed into the air. This was indeed the feeling of a spirit power cannon. He could feel energy rapidly accumulating in the cannon's firing port on Wang Ming's right arm. Teacher Wang wants to use a spirit power cannon to counter my killing blow. That's too whimsical. Wu Xinjuan shook his head. The next moment, his aura sank. Rumble. The black spring on the ground suddenly erupted as a signal of danger rang out. Wu Xinjuan is going to attack, the students shouted one after another. The purple spirit Enil Supreme lightning swept across the battlefield like a lightning dragon in this doomsday-like dual space, and an earth-shattering explosion shook the entire barrier as thunderstorms erupted everywhere. If it wasn't for the barrier's control, Beast King's remains would have really suffered if this thunderstorm had spread out. The students in this era of peace had never seen such a scene before. Although they clearly knew that this battle was isolated from the outside world and that this force wouldn't affect them, many of them were still so frightened by this momentum that they trembled all over and turned pale. Lotus Sun and Feather Lin subconsciously hugged each other. So scary. Super Chen and Dopey Guo were also scared silly. It's simply terrifying. Wang Ling looked around and saw that everyone nearby looked shocked, so he hurriedly cast a small spell on himself that made his face instantly turn white. To be honest, this scene was indeed terrifying, but compared with the duel between Immortal Jin Yuan and Wind Spirit back then, it paled in comparison. A fight between two venerated immortals had almost destroyed a planet. So in comparison, Wang Ling truly felt that this kind of battle was nothing. But he didn't want to look like he was the only sober one in a drunken stupor. In this kind of situation, it was safer to go with the flow. It wouldn't be good if he aroused suspicion. Thus, Wang Ling cast the turning white spell to make his face look extremely pale. He even did his best to secrete a few drops of sweat. In the end, when Super Chen came back to his senses and looked at Wang Ling, he was startled by his face. Oh my God! Are you okay? The people who had been watching the battle on the side were distracted by this cry, and they all turned to look in Wang Ling's direction. A lot of people saw that a number 60 high student was actually so scared that his face was deathly pale and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Little Peanut was also frightened by Wang Ling's expression, and he recalled what had happened with President Bai. Could it be that President Bai plotted against you and sucked you into the space last time, and you took a trip to the gates of hell, so you're traumatized? After all, it had only been less than a week since the incident happened. The wreath which the class had pooled money for Wang Ling back then hadn't even withered yet. How could the psychological trauma be so easily overcome? Dopey Guo patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and was overjoyed. He smiled at Wang Ling in a low voice. You're a mascot, why are you so timid? Wang Ling, it's nothing. I'll hug you and see if it makes you feel better. As soon as he finished speaking, Dopey Guo opened his arms to hug her. However, as soon as his body touched hers, Dopey Guo felt a chill run down his spine, and a chill immediately rushed to his head. Then, his face started to turn pale, and his whole body started to tremble. Super Chen and Little Peanut were shocked. What the hell? Is this contagious? Dopey Guo, I'm fine. I just don't know why, but I suddenly feel a chill. like a snake is coiling around me. After Dopey Gua said this, Wang Ling looked into the distance out of the corner of his eye. Fong Xing directly avoided his peripheral vision. Wang Ling, on the other side, a great battle was about to break out. After Wu Xinjuan's chi sank into his dantian, a massive sound wave, accompanied by a vigorous purple electric current, blasted out of the purple spirit Enel's big horn like a world-destroying electromagnetic gun. Boom! The terrifyingly huge force stirred the air in all directions. In the instant that circles of electricity came into contact with the air, they interweaved with the black spring below. The sound of waves, wind, and electricity interweaved with each other. It was as if there was a sound of the great Tao constantly echoing in the enchanted space. Wang Ling's eyebrows furrowed slightly at this scene. Irascible Dharmaraja was indeed a rare cultivation genius. Back then, he had created this Buddha lightning myriad technique, and there were many other tricks to it. Unfortunately, rumor had it that after taking Wu Xinjuan in as his disciple, irascible Dharmaraja had suddenly disappeared one day. Even his disciple, Wu Xinjuan, couldn't find irascible Dharmaraja's whereabouts. All these years, Wu Xinjuan had been out in the field all over the place, mostly because he wanted to find his Shifu irascible Dharmaraja. There had always been rumors in the outside world that irascible Dharmaraja knew his lifespan was coming to an end, so he planned to find a disciple to inherit his mantle and then find a quiet place to pass away. But no one knew whether this information was correct or not. All in all, if Wang Ling had to evaluate this Buddha lightning myriad technique, of all the level 6 spells, this was probably the one closest to Heavenly Tao. Although it wasn't as powerful as Heavenly Tao, it still had the effect of a fox borrowing the tiger's might. This technique was full of power. Next, it was up to Wang Ming to deal with it. It was very obvious that Wang Ming had already thought of a countermeasure. Almost the moment before Wu Xinjuan released his killing move, Wang Ming's 10-layered spirit power cannon was fired into the air. But this time, the spirit power cannon's target wasn't Wu Xinjuan, and it wasn't to counter Wu Xinjuan's skill, but to break open the space wall. This action instantly attracted the attention of many teachers. They didn't know what Wang Ming was going to do, but that he could actually break open the space wall with just the power of a suit of armor. It was already quite astonishing. What is Teacher Wang trying to do by breaking open the space wall? He's not going to run, is he? Seeing this scene, a lot of people didn't understand what Wang Ming meant at all. Wu Xinjuan, if you think the spirit power cannon is the only move I have, you're too naive. After successfully breaking open the space wall, Wang Ming smiled at Wu Xinjuan with incomparable confidence. Wu Xinjuan didn't understand what Wang Ming was going to do, but when he saw Wang Ming's expression, he was already on guard. In the next moment, Wang Ming gazed at Wu Xinjuan. Heavenly E-Satellite. Target locked. Heavenly E-Bullet. Fire. As soon as he said this, a ball of light actually appeared in the shattered space wall, and then grew larger and larger at an extremely fast speed. At that moment, it wasn't just Wu Xinjuan. Even the teachers and students watching on, including President Qi and the other 10 generals who were commanding from Huaxiao Alliance headquarters, all had indescribable alarmed expressions on their faces. Heavenly E-Satellite. When on Earth was that? Wu Xinjuan finally knew what the killing move Wang Ming was talking about was. His face changed dramatically. Boom. An extremely frightening silver pillar of energy shot out of the space wall and pierced through Wu Xinjuan like an energy wave. It directly smashed the sound waves of the Buddha lightning myriad and scorched the space around it until it distorted. Wherever the silver pillar of light passed, cracks even appeared in the space like a spider web, and the smell of destruction and chaos mingled within. Chapter 786. When the dazzling light slowly dissipated, the result of this duel was finally revealed to the world. No one expected that the mecha armor Wang Ming had invented could actually directly mobilize the Heavenly E-Satellite's pulse cannon. Because of the barrier outside, the Heavenly East satellite's pulse cannon couldn't reach Wang Ming directly, which was why Wang Ming had specially broken open the space wall to let the pulse cannon's light flow in through the cracks in the space. This pulse cannon directly scared the purple spirit Enel back into the psychic array, instantly destroying Wu Xinjuan's sound wave attack and restoring peace to the hellish, apocalyptic barrier. When the smoke from the battle dissipated, everyone saw Wang Ming without his armor and a bare-chested Wu Xinjuan lying on the ground. Wu Xinjuan wasn't injured, but had been knocked unconscious by the pulse cannon. The Daoist robe he was wearing had taken a large part of the damage, but it was already unusable as it was in tatters and had been completely destroyed by the pulse wave. Too bad. Wu Xinjuan's Daoist robe was destroyed. Teacher Wang's armor was melted by the blast just now. Then who in the end won this duel? Did the cultivators win? Or did science and technology win? It's a tie. Didn't you see Teacher Wang fall to the ground? For a moment, the students were talking animatedly. Quick, go help him. When the barrier dispersed, the medical team who had already been waiting on the side swarmed over and carried the two people away to check on their injuries. Both of them looked injured. Actually, they weren't. When Wang Ling saw Wang Ming being carried away, the corners of his lips curled slightly. This black-bellied guy was pretending to be unconscious. 20 minutes later, an almost unscathed Wang Ming returned to the lounge dedicated to the rainbow glass box. Jia Yin was already waiting inside. When she saw Wang Ming come in through the automatic door, she straightaway stomped her foot in anger. You're really something. Using the Heavenly East satellite without permission. Without the head of state's approval, you'll go to jail. Wang Ming smiled shamelessly. That's great. If I go to jail, I strongly recommend that you send me to Songhai First Prison. I heard there's still one person missing to play mahjong. Jia Yin, fine. Looking at his cheeky expression, Jia Yin already had a rough idea that Wang Ming had a backup plan. This approach was not surprising, and it was very much in line with the strongest brain's fine style. By the way, when I fell just now, were you nervous? Wang Ming asked about what had happened after the duel. However, Jia Yin's expression didn't change in the slightest. No. Impossible. When I disappeared, I heard that you cried for a few days. Jia Yin's face darkened. You. Who started this rumor? Wang Ming directly moved his face very close to Jia Yin's. Is it really a rumor? Jia Yin turned her face away. If the military dogs of our brigade died, would be sad too. Oh, I see. Wang Ming shrugged. By the way, weren't you worried when I collapsed just now? No. Jia Yin's answer seemed to be quite decisive. Wang Ming sighed a little dejectedly. Sure enough, the Tsundra was hard to deal with. Especially this kind of arrogant person who didn't speak a single word of truth. Alright, then I'm leaving. Wang Ming turned around and waved at Jia Yin. Where are you going? Jia Yin asked anxiously. Eat. I'm going to visit Teacher Wu while I'm at it. I'm not a cultivator. I'm starving after that fierce operation just now. Jia Yin stepped forward and pulled Wang Ming back. You're not allowed to go. Wang Ming was startled. What are you doing? Jia Yin raised Wang Ming's chin. What do you think I'm doing? Then, Jia Yin slowly closed her eyes and moved her mouth closer to his. Wang Ming was startled. Isn't it too late for you to do CPR now? Jia Yin, in the Huaxiao Alliance command room, the 10 generals who were watching the battle were stunned. General Yi stared at President Qi in disbelief. Heavenly East satellite, did you authorize this? The Heavenly East satellite pulse wave was a national weapon that absolutely couldn't be used without the approval of the head of state. Of course, President Qi knew what was at stake here, but he believed that Wang Ming wouldn't be so foolish. Hurry up and investigate. President Qi shouted at the technical department. In less than 10 seconds, the results were out. The technician stared at the screen and frowned deeply. Reporting, President Chi, the results are out. This pulse wave looks like the Heavenly E satellite pulse wave. It wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite. The Heavenly E satellite is still in standby mode. It wasn't a pulse wave launched by the Heavenly E satellite. Then why did this guy shout, Heavenly E satellite? General E questioned. Reporting, General E, we have indeed checked. After the Heavenly E satellite is used, it automatically enters a power storage state. It takes about half an hour for the second shot to be fired, and in this case, the Heavenly E satellite will automatically go into hibernation and shut down. But we just found that the Heavenly E satellite is in standby mode. This is enough to prove that the shot just now wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite. Oh, if it wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite, was it launched by a ghost? General E stared at the technician. The technician felt very wronged and smiled tearfully. Maybe, it really was launched by a ghost. Because the Heavenly E satellite really didn't react at all after it was launched. More than 20 people in the technical team checked inside and out, and there was nothing wrong with it at all. But Luo Qiuhuai, the female medicine saint of the 10 generals, shook her head. I think the same as old Qi. Wang Ming, this kid is usually a little playful, but he's not someone who doesn't follow the rules. Who knows, this pulse wave might not have been launched by the Heavenly E satellite at all. Luo Qiuhuai's words directly reminded President Qi. President Qi thought of a possibility. Check again and see if there have been any new satellites worldwide in the last few days. Hearing this, the technician's fingertips quickly jumped over the control panel. In less than 2 minutes, he had already found the information. Found it, President Qi, how is it? In the last 3 days, apart from the defense satellite launched by Mixiu Nation, there's another private satellite that was launched from an unknown coordinate. Sure enough, when the technician said this, President Qi already knew what had happened. Have you verified it? General E asked. The technician. We've already mobilized 10 satellites to take pictures, and found that the external design of this private satellite is almost identical to that of the Heavenly E satellite. Furthermore, there are obvious traces of a pulse wave. It's now in hibernation mode. That is to say, while Professor Wang Ming was missing, not only did he put together this suit of armor, he also specially built a satellite and launched it into space. Chapter 787. As an ordinary person, Wang Ming had practically proved with his actions that even a muggle without cultivation talent could use his wisdom and knowledge to change his fate. Of course, to be honest, people like Wang Ming were in the minority, and there might not be another one like him in thousands of years. But ordinary people did indeed have the possibility of changing their fate. The key wasn't whether they could, but whether they wanted to. By the way, the mecha armor that Kid Wang Ming invented shouldn't have been destroyed, right? General Yi's words were ambiguous, but his tone was very certain. A lot of people had been blinded by the intense light from the pulse wave caused by the E-bomb, and most of them had seen Wang Ming and Wu Zhenjuan fall to the ground when the light from the pulse wave disappeared. But this couldn't fool a true immortal. General Yi and the other 10 generals had seen it very clearly. The moment the power of the pulse wave and the light dissipated, Wang Ling withdrew Wang Ling 1 armor and put it away in his storage space. It wasn't like what the others had thought, that the armor had been destroyed by the pulse wave. It's indeed still here. President Qi nodded. According to Huaxiao Alliance's regulations, as an official scientific researcher, Wang Ming developed this armor without reporting it in advance, so it should be confiscated. According to the regulations, he should also be punished, General Yi said. As expected, Blade Master is as impartial as ever. Female medicine Saint Luo Qiuhuai smiled slightly and smoothed things over on the side. But considering how sudden it all happened this time, Wang Ming developed this armor in a moment of life-threatening danger. Although he didn't report it, according to Huaxiao Alliance's crisis self-defense regulations, he can be exempted from the corresponding punishment, and the armor can even be exempted from being confiscated. This is his personal property, and Huaxiao Alliance has no right to interfere. General Yi's brow furrowed into a knot again. Actually, he understood this reasoning. Little Ming won this battle, but he chose to play dead at the last moment. Everyone should know what this means, right? President Qi said indifferently. How could the 10 generals not understand the meaning of Wang Ming's action? The two sides were far apart in terms of realm strength, but because of this suit of armor, there was practically no gap between them. If Wang Ming won this fight in full view of the public, it was bound to have a huge impact on the mentalities of the teachers and students watching the fight, and might even lead to mental problems. For cultivators, the state of mind was also a very important decisive factor. It would directly determine whether one could go further on the path of cultivation. It would be too unrealistic for the teachers and students present to stop progressing in the future because of this armor and attempt to rely on the power of science and technology to quickly increase their strength. Wu Xinjuan had also collapsed. But at the very least, Wang Ming had deliberately turned this battle into a draw, which at the very least showed that cultivation and science were equally matched and complemented each other. Little Ming once told me that science is dead, but cultivation is alive, with infinite possibilities, President Qi said. This was what Wang Ming had said before, and was one of the main reasons why he had set the match to a draw this time. Although old Qi himself didn't know why a muggle who didn't know anything about cultivation would say something that sounded like chicken soup for the soul, it could be said that Wang Ming had personally experienced this since he was young. The armor that Wang Ming had developed this time was indeed very abnormal. It could even fight a 9th-level itinerant immortal to a draw. But if he ran into someone a little more powerful, his equipment could be dismantled in a matter of minutes. Given the current level of science and technology, there were actually still bottlenecks. Wang Ming had already considered breaking through this bottleneck when he had improved Wang Ling 1 for the 3rd time. He thought that the domain of the gods would definitely have the answer he wanted to know. But that was a story for another time. What do the rest of you think? General Yi turned to look at the other 10 generals present. Qiu Huai and old Qi have a point. Wang Ming can be exempted from punishment. He can also keep the armor. I even think he should be commended to a certain extent. Looking at the others, Marshal Jiang finally cleared his throat and spoke as a representative. Commended. He should be commended. Marshal Jiang said resolutely, for Wang Ming, this should have been a dead end, but he managed to turn it around. And most importantly, in the face of such a crisis, he was actually able to calmly design a suit of armor that can be said to transcend the century. I think we should commend him for meritorious service, and then hold an internal symposium for him to share his experience in making armor or something. General Yi was startled. Are you the devil? Marshal Jiang, the 10 generals all looked at Marshal Jiang. They instantly understood. This was confiscation in disguise, Marshal Jiang shrugged. Of course, I'm just mentioning it. Whether to commend him or hold a symposium is another matter. The point is that Wang Ming doesn't have to be punished or hand over the armor. That's all I have to say. The Dead Sea of Space has always been called a graveyard for magic treasures. All these years, the various major countries have had very limited use of the Dead Sea of Space. Many of them, including us, just use it as a dumping ground. But it turns out that some of the junk magic treasures inside, whether they were thrown in by humans or carelessly sucked in, actually still have some value. If we can properly develop the Dead Sea of Space and recycle enough of the junk to turn it into treasure, this will be an invisible rich mine. President Qi expressed his opinion. So my opinion is that we can hold a symposium, but not for Little Ming to share his experience in making armor, but for him to talk about his origins in the Dead Sea of Space. In passing, explain the cause of death of that Dark Network member, Ghosthead Blade. What do you say, oldie? Since Battle Saint and Medicine Saint have spoken up one after another, this old man naturally has no other opinion. Generally nodded in agreement. If news of Ghost Head Blade's death in the Dead Sea of Space got out, it would definitely be a huge blow to the Dark Network. Finally, as for the commendation that Battle Saint mentioned, I think we should dispense with it. Wang Ming, this kid, is still a good-for-nothing, and we can't praise him too highly. And to be honest, I still want to punish him. In the end, the reason why this crisis happened this time was because he was too rash. That hothead. Saying this, President Chi slapped the table, his face red and he looked a little angry. One by one, the technicians buried their heads in their work and didn't dare make a sound. Only the 10 generals' hearts were as clear as a mirror. Old Chi looked unperturbed on the surface, but in fact, he was overjoyed in his heart. Since ancient times, when a disciple surpassed his master, there had never been a teacher who wouldn't be happy. Chapter 788. The 10 generals were still here, and there were so many technical personnel. He was a commander, an aloof wisdom saint, how could he laugh? Since everyone is more or less in agreement, then it's decided for the time being. Let's wait until little Ming comes back. President Chi did his best to restrain his emotions as he cleared his throat. By the way, has the head of state found any clues on that mysterious expert? General Yi asked at that moment. He was very concerned about this expert who had mixed in with the teachers. It looks like he hasn't for the time being. This senior is very good at hiding himself, even the head of state can't detect him. President Chi shook his head. But that's fine. After this, we will specifically conduct a physical examination for all the teachers who will be leading the team after they return from Beast King's remains. A physical examination. General Yi raised an eyebrow. His subconscious was telling him that this physical examination absolutely wasn't simple. President Chi nodded. There has been a physical examination in previous years, mainly to examine some injured teachers to see if they have accidentally brought in a special virus from the remains, and mainly for quarantine purposes. But this year, it's for everyone. It's not just the teachers, but also the students participating in the summer camp. This is also the head of state's intention. When President Chi said this, everyone already understood. This physical examination for all the teachers had probably been specially designed to target that mysterious expert. High-precision scientific equipment was used for the physical examination, and common methods of concealment couldn't be hidden from this equipment. Furthermore, blood tests were absolutely unavoidable during the quarantine. If a teacher refused to take part in the physical examination, they could basically be added to the list of suspects. In short, for that mysterious expert, this was absolutely a situation where it was hard to get off. The 10 generals nodded one after another. This move by the head of state was really brilliant. And so, it was August 5th on Saturday in the 15th week of the semester. Wang Ling returned home in the wee hours of the morning, and Odd Chua drove him to the entrance of the Wang family's small villa. Wang Ming had actually planned to personally take Wang Ling home, but in the end, he couldn't dissuade Jia Yin, and was forcibly dragged back to the research institute to make a report. Previously, Jia Yin had only heard that the institute was going to punish Wang Ming, and had been extremely nervous. She had actually still been kept in the dark about Wang Ming's decision to exempt him from punishment. Thus, after returning from the remains, Jia Yin forcefully dragged Wang Ming away, wanting him to admit his mistake as soon as possible to show that he had the right attitude and fight for leniency later. But Face hadn't been home for the past 2 days. He had gone to play games with Wei Ji. Wei Ji could be considered a pet trainer of some renown in Songhai City. Now, he was with Loopy Toad all the time. They took the bus together, they went out together, and they were together all the time. As a result, Loopy Toad didn't have to sneak around when it took the bus like before. Even if it spoke human language on the bus, no one would find it strange. Wei Ji was a famous pet trainer. What was so strange about having a spirit dog that could talk? The only thing Loopy Toad needed to worry about was the Society of Saints. During the few days he had been away, President Fu of the Society of Saints and his assistant secretary, Han Jin, had paid him a visit. They wanted to hire Loopy Toad as class monitor of the Society of Saints Spirit Beast class with a high salary, but unfortunately, Loopy Toad had been at Wei Ji's place at the time, so Father and Mother Wang hadn't been able to directly make the decision for it. Hence, President Fu and his assistant went to Wei Ji's family apartment. However, they could not enter at all. For Loopy Toad, life in the human world was very comfortable, especially after it had adapted to its new body. Every day could be said to be relaxing and cozy. In a place like the Spirit Beast class, the Spirit Beasts all had masters behind them, and their identities were presumably not ordinary. If Loopy Toad went in carelessly, it might instead cause trouble for Wang Ling HM. Wang Ling had read all of this in Loopy Toad's diary. Dog 2's diary had always been open to the public and had never been hidden. It had been placed under Wang Ling's bed. It had to be said that Buttface's handwriting was getting better and better. He used his paw to hold the pen, and the words he wrote were quite vigorous and powerful. Moreover, every word was in a standard square. From afar, it looked like the words were arranged neatly and orderly. It was as if it could be printed out. This was simply the gospel for people with OCD. Wang Ling didn't rest that night, but was busy thinking about what had happened at the summer camp. He had indeed gained a lot from this summer camp, but there had also been a lot of trouble. How to deal with the aftermath was a big problem. First of all, the two young masters of Disabled Elders Senior High School, Li Mingyao and Zhou Yujing, definitely wouldn't give up looking for him. These two people were very influential in Songhai City, and were like ticking time bombs. He had to think of a way to make arrangements after that. Of course, compared with Li Mingyao and Zhou Yujing's troubles, the head of state was a bigger problem. Although Wang Ling hadn't directly attracted the head of state's attention this time, on the way back from the summer camp, everyone had received a notice that they would be going for a quarantine checkup next Monday. This quarantine was for all the teachers and students who were going to the summer camp this time. It didn't take a genius to know that the head of state had definitely discovered something. Furthermore, he was no longer just suspecting that there was a mysterious expert among the teachers. Since they had to be on guard, they had to be on guard in advance, otherwise they would be caught unprepared, which would be throwing themselves into disarray. Of course, apart from these troubles, Wang Ling's harvest from the summer camp this time was related to the domain of the gods. The domain of the gods indeed existed, because ever since he was young, Wang Ling had dreamed countless times about a very vague immortal island, but he couldn't remember what it was at all. Could that place be the domain of the gods? Or was it related to the domain of the gods? But for now, the information that Wang Ming and Odd Zhua had obtained from Devil King was still quite limited. Everything could only be discussed after Little Silver finished looking at the black box that Devil King had given him. Wang Ling cupped his chin in his hand as he pondered. Then, he knocked on the ground. He had specially told Mother Wang not to erase the Heavenly Tao array he had set up in his room last time, so that it would be easier to use later. So Wang Ling just knocked on the ground. A moment later, the Heavenly Tao incarnation of the golden 3-inch man appeared in the center of the array. What do you want this time? The golden 3-inch man was scared when he saw Wang Ling. Then he looked at the ground and realized that this was still the same array that had summoned him the last time, and was instantly speechless. He was the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 789. The golden 3-inch man who was the embodiment of Heavenly Tao really wanted to cry, but he always felt very powerless in front of Wang Ling. He had been summoned here again and again this month, and it wasn't to trade resources or anything like that, but to ask about secrets. These secrets were all secrets of the heavens. The most important thing was that it was one thing to trade for secrets of the heavens, but who would use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade? It was all his father's fault for using crispy noodle snacks to make a trade with the youngster in front of him back then, which had created this true devil. Speak, what's the matter? The golden 3-inch man sighed as he completely accepted reality. Wong Ling was rummaging through his drawer. He actually didn't have many crispy noodle snacks left, and he was actually very reluctant to give them away. So he had just been rummaging through expired crispy noodle snacks. The flagship store had a recycling service for expired crispy noodle snacks, and Wong Ling was a privileged gold card user, so the flagship store could even collect them at his doorstep. But then Wong Ling thought that he should leave some expired crispy noodle snacks for Heavenly Dao. So before the summer camp had started, Wong Ling had used his privileged doorstep service to get Loopy Toad to help him with the exchange. But what he got in return were expired crispy noodle snacks. A complete crispy noodle snack pack could be exchanged for 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was blank at this scene, and then immediately stretched out his hand. "Young hero, please wait." Wong Ling turned his face away. The golden 3-inch man, "Actually, you don't have to use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade. We only provide a loan service here. You can ask questions first, and then exchange them later with a handwritten copy." "That good?" Wong Ling's eyes lit up when he heard this. This Heavenly Dao was indeed very conscientious. Wong Ling sighed in his heart. But the problem was that he had already prepared expired crispy noodle snacks. It would be a pity not to use them. "Perfect, I have 3 questions." Wong Ling spoke lightly, and then presented the 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was startled. "Passed, expired." Wong Ling raised his eyebrows and stared at the Heavenly Dao as he said firmly telepathically, "I don't make a deal with you based on what you want, but on what I have." The golden 3-inch man was about to cry. "Let's begin." Wong Ling stared at the golden 3-inch man. The little golden man wanted to cry but had no tears. A golden scroll appeared in his hand. "This is the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, a golden scroll specially used to record the mysteries of heaven. You can write a question on this Book of Heavenly Mysteries, and the answer will naturally appear on it." The Book of Heavenly Mysteries was a supreme magic tool that recorded all the secrets of the Great Tao. It was an existence that surpassed the natural fate of heaven and earth, so it was naturally more powerful than world-defying magic tools. Ordinary people had to pay a price for prying into the secrets of the Heavenly Tao. All the secrets sealed in the Heavenly Secret Vault could be found in the Book of Heaven's Secret. Of course, these secrets had to be related to the Heaven's Way. There were still a lot of useless questions, such as what so-and-so liked to eat, what could be used against him, and so on. If these people did not have a strong connection with the Heavenly Tao itself, then it would be useless to ask them. According to the laws of the Heavenly Tao, the price of spying on the Heaven's Legacy Vault was as follows. 1. Prying into the secrets of heaven requires an equal price in exchange, and if necessary, the price is your life. 2. For Rule 1, if you have to pay the price of your life after obtaining the answer, the questioner will turn to dust within 48 hours and disappear completely. 3. If the person prying into the secrets of heaven is an extremely evil person, they will not be able to reincarnate after death. 4. After obtaining the answer, the person prying into the secrets of heaven must keep the secrets of heaven secret. If they leak the secrets of heaven, they will be punished by Heavenly Tao by lightning and will never be able to reincarnate. 5. The person prying into the secrets of heaven must cultivate more than 100 Heavenly Tao, or obtain more than 3 outer Tao. 6. The person prying into the secrets of heaven can consume an equal amount of their lifespan to reduce the price of their offerings. 7. Heavenly Tao reserves the right to explain everything. 8. Those on the Heavenly Tao whitelist are not subject to the above rules, and Wong Ling happened to be on the Heavenly Tao whitelist. Hence, the golden 3-inch man had never been able to do anything about Wong Ling. If someone else wanted to pry into the secrets of heaven, nothing could be more tragic than paying the price with their life. Wong Ling just had to hand in the homework he didn't want, or even the expired crispy noodle snacks. With privilege, you could do whatever you wanted. Helpless, he could only accept it, what was the saying again? The heavenly Tao reincarnated, whoever Wang Ling spared, the bitter fruit that had been sown back then was finally being borne out by them. Thus, when Wang Ling wrote down the question he wanted to ask in the Book of Heavenly Secrets and raised his head again, he saw two streams of tears flowing down the golden 3-inch man's blurry face. He was actually crying. Wang Ling didn't understand. What an amiable person he was. The little golden man wiped his tears and put away the 3 packets of expired crispy noodle snacks in front of him. Although it was already a privilege for Wang Ling to exchange his handwritten exercise books for resources, these 3 packets of expired snacks really weren't as good as handwritten exercise books. Your question has already been received by the Heavenly Secrets warehouse. You'll need to wait about 3 or 4 minutes for the answer to appear in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. The golden 3-inch man rolled up the Book of Heavenly Secrets again and put it in front of Wang Ling. Waiting for 3 or 4 minutes was just enough time for a song. Suddenly, the little golden man had an idea, and decided to play a song for Wang Ling. Listen, this song. The little golden man just clapped his hands, and a melodious, 3-dimensional voice instantly filled the room. The prelude to the beautiful song rang out. Wang Ling, this is the little golden man, this is the heavenly Tao songstress singing. Each of us heavenly Tao has a different task. When many cultivators pass away in meditation, a lantern will appear in front of their eyes, and they will also hear melodious music, which is the heavenly Tao songstress singing silently behind their backs. Thus, the heavenly Tao songstress's voice isn't something that ordinary people can hear. Her voice has a myriad of variations, and is a collection of the most beautiful voices in the entire dimensional universe. Every voice can be studied to imitate a musical instrument, so the heavenly Tao songstress can sing as she sings. Wang Ling, At that moment, the heavenly Tao songstress, who had countless voices, had already finished singing the prelude. The song officially began, always asking for things from me, but never saying thank you. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized that crispy noodle snacks were cheap. Every time I made a deal, I pretended to be relaxed, smiling and saying, let's make a deal, I'll give you the expired snacks, the little golden man. So, is there anything you want to say? Wang Ling, it sounds good. The little golden man had already completely given up on resisting Wang Ling. Forget it, if it's expired, then so be it. Chapter 790. Unfortunately, he actually didn't know that he was on the Heavenly Tao's whitelist. The whitelist of the Heavenly Axiom was not announced to the public. Once one was listed on it, this secret would only be known by the Heavenly Axiom and no one else. But in fact, whether or not Wang Ling knew that he was a whitelist wasn't a big deal. After all, even if he wasn't a whitelist, they still couldn't beat Wang Ling. Among the 3,000 heavenly Taos, every heavenly Tao was a large clan. There were many little golden men that were divided into generations according to size. If they wanted to defeat Wang Ling, they might have a chance if all 3,000 heavenly Tao families attacked together. A few minutes later, he followed the little golden man's instructions and opened the Book of Heavenly Secrets. Previously, he had written 3 questions in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. 1. Is President Baizhi dead or not? 2. Angler, are you from the God's domain? 3. Where exactly is the God domain located? As for the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, it gave the answers to the 3 questions. Everything was as Wang Ling had expected. President Bai hadn't completely died back then. During the summer camp, Wang Ling had had a bad feeling. He knew that President Bai's soul had been absorbed by Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, and when he had invaded President Chi's mind and slapped Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, he had been a little too heavy-handed. After that, Wang Ling wondered whether President Bai would take this opportunity to launch a counterattack. As expected, the situation was just as he had expected. This piece of dog skin plaster was still alive. The current situation was a little complicated. Because President Bai was bound to continue his revenge, and the Heavenly Tao had already confirmed that the angler from before was someone from the domain of the gods. As for the location of God's domain, the Tianji book did not give a direct answer. According to the Book of Heavenly Secrets, he had to find the angler and verify his identity before the answer to the third question would appear. Thus, Wang Ling frowned when he saw the third question, which was clearly the most critical one. This was the first time the little golden man had seen this young master's deflated expression. You ask too many questions, that's why you're like this. Moreover, the answer to the third question is that you would have to pay a huge price, so this is already quite good. After all, the secrets of the heavens cannot be leaked. Wang Ling, elsewhere, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Little Silver were enjoying a broccoli salad dinner. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't been idle during Little Silver's absence. He had been investigating the identity of the mysterious angler as well as the informant who had been continuously posting clues on the forum. Starting with the incident with President Bai, the informant had been able to continuously share new information anonymously on the cultivation forum. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's intuition told him that there had to be some kind of connection between the informant and the angler. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal picked up a piece of broccoli and put it in his mouth. It seems that a lot happened during this trip to Beast King's remains. Little Silver stuffed a lot of things into his mouth, and his words were slurred. Unfortunately, we were still fooled in the end. Although His Majesty Beast King didn't die, he was deceived for more than 1,000 years. When will Beast King's black box? Tao King Devil Tao Beast Star, Silver King God Demon, King God, Tao has he, Tao, it will take some time before the box can be opened. Lord Beast King has imparted me a set of cultivation technique. I have to combine the cultivation technique to open the box. I Dao Dao King King Emperor Master, I Dao 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 first. I have to cultivate it to at least level 5 before I'm qualified to open the box. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat. Level 5, you haven't started cultivating it yet, have you? Little Silver nodded. That's right, I have to start from scratch. I only solidified my mental cultivation method on the way here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, then, how long will you need to learn it? Little Silver sucked his fingers in deep thought. It takes about 2 or 3 days to cultivate one level. Based on the difficulty of each level of the cultivation method, it'll take at least a week to half a month to cultivate 5 levels, a month at most. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, even cultivating 5 levels in a month was godlike speed. As expected, the holy beasts were all monstrous geniuses, and each of them could be said to be cultivation geniuses who had been bestowed food by their ancestors. Most importantly, they were born with long lives, which meant that apart from the difficulty of cultivating realms, they learned everything quickly. Sure enough, people were more infuriating than Silver. This kind of learning speed was in fact very astonishing, but in Little Silver's eyes, this was nothing more than a normal basic operation. It was like a straight-A student holding a 98 exam paper exclaiming why 2 marks had been deducted, while you were sighing softly at why the other person had scored 98. That was the difference. The cultivation speed of humans and holy beasts couldn't be compared. Thinking this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. He felt that he still had to be a little more Buddhist and patient when it came to cultivation. Old Senior Wang in the Wang family's small villa had already pointed out a shortcut for him to comprehend heavenly Tao, broccoli. Although he had already been eating broccoli for almost 2 months, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still hadn't comprehended its meaning, but since it was a senior's hint, there had to be a reason for it. Maybe he hadn't eaten enough. Maybe he hadn't comprehended enough. What have you been playing recently? Do you have any new games? Little Silver ate his dinner as if nothing had happened, completely unaware of the ripple in Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart when he found out about Little Silver's cultivation speed. Games. I haven't been playing much lately, Brother Silver. Games are a huge waste of time. Back then, in order for you to quickly adapt to life in the human world, I didn't tell you about the disadvantages of playing games. Do you know how many people play games until they go bankrupt on small loans? Is it that serious? Little Silver rubbed his head. It was obvious that Little Silver hadn't realized it at all. Of course it is. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's gaze was very serious. You should know that some people often pay an extremely heavy price to draw out a golden legendary card. Generally speaking, people who seek a sense of existence in the game often have very empty lives in real life. Brother Silver, you should find something more meaningful to do. Aren't I writing a novel? Little Silver spread his hands. Although it's not as good as Senior Wang's, I actually don't think it's that bad. Besides, games actually don't cost much, and I rarely spend money on them. Then last month, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal recalled Little Silver's electronic bill from last month. Among them, there were more than 60 pages of electronic orders in the virtual network column. Grenade-throwing, if you think about it this way, can the money I spend playing games be more than the money I spend on takeout? I don't think so, then that's it. As long as I spend more money on takeout than on games, it proves that I'm not a good-for-nothing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned. What the hell was this reasoning? Logically speaking, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that Little Silver really couldn't be blamed for this. It was he who had spoiled Little Silver rotten. Being addicted to games wasn't right, and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he should guide Little Silver back onto the right path as soon as possible. I've been preparing a new project recently. Brother Silver, do you have time to join me? It just so happens that you can gather some material for your novel, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said after clearing his throat. What project? Tell me about it. Chapter 791. Setting up a sect wasn't something that could be done overnight. It was now the era of civilized cultivation, and there were rules and regulations for everything. It wasn't like the ancient era, when all you had to do was find a suitable land of mountains and rivers, invest in building a sect, and recruit people. Back then, you didn't even need to buy land. If several people who wanted to set up a sect had their eyes on the same land of mountains and rivers, whoever won would own it. Therefore, there were a lot of factors that needed to be considered in order to set up a sect in today's society. As early as several hundred years ago, around the time the Cultivation Forum had just been set up, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already conceived the idea of setting up a sect. However, at that time, he hadn't had enough resources. He had lacked supplies, money, management, strength and connections. He hadn't had anything. But things were different now. The development of the Cultivation Forum was even better than what Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had imagined when he had first set up the site. He had relied on the forum to expand all kinds of interpersonal relationships and connections. Furthermore, he had used the forum to post all kinds of news about the cultivation world to explore and uphold justice everywhere, thoroughly spreading the name, Great Deathcourting Senior, in the cultivation circle. For many people, the soul formation stage was an unattainable realm that they could only dream of. Of course, this realm was far from enough for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself. At the very least, it was nothing compared to the big shots around him. Even in the chat group set up based on the Cultivation Forum, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that as the group leader, his realm ranking in the group was only above average. Wang Ling naturally didn't need to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Even the newcomers to the group, Little Silver, Brother Fong Xing and Daoist Guang, were much better than him. The most frightening thing was that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had the vague feeling that Dog 2's strength was about to surpass his. An ambitious person would always compare himself with those who were more outstanding than he was. After this comparison, he would naturally fall behind, and then work even harder and strive even harder to follow in the footsteps of these outstanding people to become even more outstanding. Grenade-throwing was this kind of person. Little Silver had never seen Grenade-throwing with such a serious and meticulous face. Grenade-throwing was usually a very sunny and cheerful person. Little Silver clearly remembered that he had only seen this expression in one situation before. That was, while planting broccoli in the backyard. Realizing that grenade throwing was seriously talking to him about the construction of the sect, Little Silver was blank for a long while before he asked, "So you've chosen a place?" "I already have a few pieces of land that I like in Songhai City, which is in the suburbs. I've heard from a friend that it's about to be divided into a new district called Chinling New District." Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal said, "Historically, that area has been very barren, and demons have wreaked havoc there, so development hasn't been particularly good in the last few hundred years. A lot of real estate developers have encountered all kinds of mysterious and supernatural events there, such as regional earthquakes, building material trucks running into ghosts on the road, and even evil spirits howling in the middle of the night. Didn't a feng shui master take a look?" Little Silver asked curiously. In the past, feng shui masters would go there every day to measure the feng shui, but the result was that the divination showed that it was an ominous place. "That's why there are very, very few residents living there now," said Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal. After hearing this, Little Silver was very surprised. "Then why did you decide on that land?" "Because more than 10 years ago, it was said that the feng shui there suddenly improved overnight. But I think this might have something to do with Brother Ling's family." "Master." "That's right." Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal nodded. "I heard that Brother Ling's family moved here more than 10 years ago." "Oh, that's right, I forgot to tell you, the pieces of land I chose are very close to East Huang Road in front of Brother Ling's house." Little Silver finally understood at this point. No wonder that place had suddenly changed from an ominous place to a land of good feng shui. It turned out that it was because Master was there to suppress it. Master was already a very strong person. And there were so many seniors in this villa. Big Master. Old Master. Old Master's wife. Great Master, a total of 5 masters. So what if there were a lot of demons and ghosts in that area? When the 5 masters were added together, that would be the ultimate bomb. Little Silver actually hadn't been very interested in this matter at first, but when he heard that the sect was going to be built near the Wang family's small villa, his interest was immediately piqued. If the sect was really built there, it would be so convenient for him to move around with Master in the future. "Then, Grenade Throwing, do you have a general idea?" Little Silver asked again. "I've been working on the general idea since several hundred years ago, and I think I'll start with our chat group for the main management. Our sect must break away from the shackles of traditional sect doctrines and develop our own individual sect characteristics. Of course, this must be built on the basis that it doesn't violate our core values and the will of the country. We definitely can't do anything that breaks the law." When Little Silver saw that Grenade Throwing's eyes were shining as he said this, his expression was so serious that it moved Little Silver. "Brother Silver, let me ask you a question. When your holy beast race was divided into tribes back then, was it like a small sect?" "A little." Little Silver nodded. "But that couldn't be called a real sect. A sect needed to be run, and the tribes established by the holy beast race weren't so strict in their management. In ancient times, why did people set up sects? In order to find a group of like-minded fellow Taoists, they vigorously pushed out unique secret arts that only their sect had. These unique secret arts were the key to attracting a large number of disciples to join the sect." Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal stood up and said tirelessly, "In ancient times, sects were actually set up for those who had the strength to do so. In the absence of any overall rules and regulations, those who had the strength wanted to leave a mark on their name for generations to come, carry forward their techniques, and promote their reputation. And the disciples who joined the sect often sought peace in these troubled times when hundreds of schools contended for supremacy." Little Silver seemed to understand a little. "Then, Grenade Throwing, you mean, times are different now. Brother Silver, do you think that if we were like before, and purely used those techniques to attract outsiders to recruit people, would anyone come? Nowadays, there are a lot of spirit skill shops online, and there are many ways to cooperate on copyrights of techniques. Just go online, and the techniques you want can be sent to you electronically. Why go through the trouble of joining a sect? That makes sense. Little Silver nodded in agreement with Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's point of view. But Little Silver's expression was still a little hesitant, because after talking for so long, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still hadn't explained why they were setting up a sect. Then what are we setting up this sect for? It's not like we're going to build a broccoli farm. Brother Silver, you're really smart. Ah. Of course, this is just one of the plans in my sect's blueprint. The main show is actually yet to come. Chapter 792. Building a sect was something that sounded very exciting just from the sound of it. Little Silver had never been the head of a sect before, but he could more or less understand what it felt like. It was probably like being the head of a holy beast clan, similar to being the head of a big family. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had also said that people in modern cultivation society had a different need for sects compared to the ancient era. In the past, people had looked for sects just to be able to learn a technique in a chaotic world and have something to rely on. There were all kinds of struggles and competitions between the sections. After most of the sects collapsed in the competition, some of the disciples who were originally attached to the sects died in order to protect the glory of the sects, while others wandered outside and eventually turned to other sects. But under the modern system, while there was still competition between sects, they would never fight each other, as there were government departments to regulate them. Therefore, the relationship between the light faction sects was more of a business competition. Unlike before, disciples who joined sects now didn't just want to find something to rely on, but more for the purpose of making money and becoming famous. Little Silver had previously learned a little about the structure of modern human sections. To put it bluntly, modern sects already had a trend of acting as management companies, and the disciples who signed up with them were actually trainees who had just entered an acting company. Although sects still maintained the previous hierarchy of inner and outer sect as well as inner disciple, it was undeniable that this trend was becoming more and more obvious in the current sect circle. On the surface, sects didn't mention it, but most of them had a tacit understanding. A famous sect star disciple could bring a considerable amount of revenue to the sect in the future, which was a huge boost to the sect's popularity, network traffic, the number of new recruits each year and so on. They were far more reliable than a star with a pretty face. In the current cultivation society, although the phenomenon of looking at one's face still existed, people with good faces were becoming less and less rare. With spells and modern cultivation technology, even if one was born with a face like a hairy egg, one could still become a spotlessly white egg. What mattered more was ability. Have you told Master about this? Little Silver asked as he bit his finger. This was a habit of his. Every time he was thinking, he would bite his finger, and sometimes it would even bleed. However, due to the holy beast's extremely strong regenerative ability, the skin that was bitten would recover in an instant. I was just about to discuss the establishment of the sect with Brother Ling. I had even thought about making Brother Ling the honorary sect leader or vice sect leader, but given Brother Ling's character, he would definitely not accept it. Master has always been very low-key. Little Silver lowered his head and pondered for a moment before he suggested, I'm sure you won't be the sect leader, but maybe you can agree to be a guest official. Brother Silver's idea isn't bad. I'll talk to Brother Ling later, and it's fine if he doesn't accept. Actually, I have someone else in mind for the position of deputy sect leader. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had an excited expression on his face. What do you think of Brother Joie? Little Master. Little Silver was blank. Little Master, in terms of his position in the group, he's indeed qualified to be deputy sect leader. But Little Master's strength is only at the Gene Dan stage, so I'm afraid it won't be very friendly when recruiting from the outside. And Little Master is working in a government department, so there shouldn't be any way for him to take up a position in the outer sect, right? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal waved his hand. That's fine. I've already submitted our sect plan to a friend. If the sect is established, our sect will be a light force that will work closely with the government department. Work together. Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, I don't think I've told Brother Silver about our sect's original intention, have I? As I said before, the needs of modern sects are already different from those of the past. Most sects now take the route of a management company, and train outer sect disciples as trainees, inner sect disciples as newcomers, and inner sect disciples as idols. But sooner or later, we won't be able to continue down this path, and we'll definitely have to adjust it later. Then our sect is a big, relaxed family, and we have to make all the disciples feel at home. After our disciples enter the sect, we won't set up a ranking system based on their cultivation or overall situation. All disciples who join the sect are treated equally and receive the most basic benefits. If you want to advance, you can only complete sect missions to earn reputation points, so even disciples at the foundation establishment stage have the chance to become department heads in the inner and outer sect. In addition, our sect has a dream realization plan that's completely different from other sects. We'll train disciples who have relatively weak cultivation talent but have made great contributions to the sect, and help them realize their dreams, making the impossible possible. It's precisely because of this dream realization plan that we'll set up a special government supervisory team office. So Brother Joie can serve as deputy sect leader of the supervisory team, which won't be a problem at all. Furthermore, Brother Joie has been very active in the public eye in the last few months. His participation will also help the sect expand rapidly in a short period of time, said Grenade-throwing senior immortal. Little Silver nodded. This was the truth. Little Master wasn't very strong, but he was clearly a genuine child of Providence. Little Master's shadow could be seen in almost every major incident in the last few months. Audiobook was the main reason why the Mahjong squad in Songhai First Prison had been established. Furthermore, he had heard that in order to deal with foreign infiltrators this time, the Mahjong squad had helped General by display his invincible might and rendered meritorious service. These people should have been sentenced to death, but now that they had performed meritorious deeds to atone for their crimes, the death penalty could probably be reduced to a reprieve, and then they would be locked up for a few thousand years. But the problem was that it was questionable whether these people would be able to live for several thousand years. Thus, while they were serving their sentences, the Mahjong squad had to work day and night to complete all kinds of assigned tasks in exchange for points to atone for their crimes. The dream realization plan sounds amazing. Little Silver was completely fired up by Grenade-throwing senior immortal's enthusiasm. Although he didn't know how this dream realization plan would work, it did sound like a good project that would benefit the people, so it was inevitable that the government would be interested. This dream realization plan is amazing. Grenade-throwing senior immortal snorted. Actually, this dream realization plan had another name, Audiobook's plan, which could also be called the scapegoat plan. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had specially devised this plan in order to attract Wang Ling. When a sect was established, a specialized scapegoat group would be set up. And Audiobook would be the leader of this scapegoat group. What's the name of the sect? Asked Little Silver. It's already been registered. Grenade-throwing senior immortal chuckled and gave Little Silver a file. This sect name had been registered 5 years ago. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had already been slowly implementing his plan to establish a sect since 5 years ago. Then, Little Silver looked at the name of the sect. He almost jumped in fright. War. Chapter 793. The golden 3-inch man who was the embodiment of heavenly Tao really wanted to cry, but he always felt very powerless in front of Wang Ling. He had been summoned here again and again this month, and it wasn't to trade resources or anything like that, but to ask about secrets. These secrets were all secrets of the heavens. The most important thing was that it was one thing to trade for secrets of the heavens, but who would use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade? It was all his father's fault for using crispy noodle snacks to make a trade with the youngster in front of him, which had created this true devil. Speak, what's the matter? The golden 3-inch man sighed as he completely accepted reality. Wong Ling was rummaging through his drawer. He actually didn't have many crispy noodle snacks left, and he was actually very reluctant to give them away. So he had just been rummaging through expired crispy noodle snacks. The flagship store had a recycling service for expired crispy noodle snacks, and Wong Ling was a privileged gold card user, so the flagship store could even collect them at his doorstep. But then Wong Ling thought that he should leave some expired crispy noodle snacks for Heavenly Dao. So before the summer camp had started, Wong Ling had used his privileged doorstep service to get Loopy Toad to help him with the exchange. But what he got in return were expired crispy noodle snacks. A complete crispy noodle snack pack could be exchanged for 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was blank at this scene, and immediately stretched out his hand. "Young hero, please wait." Wong Ling turned his head. The golden 3-inch man, "Actually, you don't have to use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade. We only provide a loan service here. You can ask questions first, and you can exchange your handwritten copies later." "That good?" Wong Ling's eyes lit up when he heard this. As expected, this Heavenly Dao had a conscience. Wong Ling sighed in his heart. But the problem was that he had already prepared expired crispy noodle snacks. It would be a pity not to use them. "Perfect, I have 3 questions." Wong Ling spoke lightly, and then presented the 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was startled. "Passed, expired." Wong Ling raised his eyebrows and stared at the Heavenly Dao as he said firmly, "I'm not making a deal with you to see what you want, but what I have." The golden 3-inch man was about to cry. "Let's begin." Wong Ling stared at the golden 3-inch man. The little golden man wanted to cry but had no tears. A golden scroll appeared in his hand. "This is the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, a golden scroll specially used to record the mysteries of heaven. You can write a question on this Book of Heavenly Mysteries, and the answer will naturally appear on it." The Book of Heavenly Mysteries was a supreme magic tool that recorded all the secrets of the Great Tao. It was an existence that surpassed the natural fate of heaven and earth, so it was naturally more powerful than world-defying magic tools. Ordinary people had to pay a price for prying into the secrets of the Heavenly Tao. All the secrets sealed in the Heavenly Secret Vault could be found in the Book of Heaven's Secret. Of course, these secrets had to be related to the Heaven's Way. There were still a lot of useless questions, such as what so-and-so liked to eat, what could be used against him, and so on. If these people did not have a strong connection with the Heavenly Tao itself, then it would be useless to ask them. According to the laws of the Heavenly Tao, the price of spying on the Heaven's Legacy Vault was as follows. 1. Prying into the secrets of heaven requires an equal price in exchange, and if necessary, the price is your life. 2. For Rule 1, if you have to pay the price of your life after obtaining the answer, the questioner will turn to dust within 48 hours and disappear completely. 3. If the person prying into the secrets of heaven is an extremely evil person, they will not be able to reincarnate after death. 4. After obtaining the answer, the person prying into the secrets of heaven must keep the secrets of heaven secret. If they leak the secrets of heaven, they will be punished by Heavenly Tao by lightning and will never be able to reincarnate. 5. The person prying into the secrets of heaven must cultivate more than 100 Heavenly Tao, or obtain more than 3 outer Tao. 6. The person prying into the secrets of heaven can consume an equal amount of their lifespan to reduce the price of their offerings. 7. Heavenly Tao reserves the right to explain everything. 8. Those on the Heavenly Tao whitelist are not subject to the above rules, and Wong Ling happened to be on the Heavenly Tao whitelist. Hence, the golden 3-inch man had never been able to do anything about Wong Ling. If anyone else wanted to pry into the secrets of heaven, nothing could be more tragic than paying the price with their lives. Wong Ling just had to hand in the homework he didn't want, or even the expired crispy noodle snacks. With privilege, you could do whatever you wanted. Helpless, he could only accept it. What was the saying again? The Heavenly Tao reincarnated, whoever Wong Ling spared, the bitter fruit that had been sown back then was finally being borne out by them. Thus, when Wang Ling wrote down the question he wanted to ask in the Book of Heavenly Secrets and raised his head again, he noticed that the golden 3-inch man's blurry face was actually shedding tears. He was actually crying. Wang Ling didn't understand. What an amiable person he was. The little golden man wiped his tears and put away the 3 packets of expired crispy noodle snacks in front of him. Although Wang Ling was usually already privileged enough to exchange his handwritten exercise books for resources, these 3 packets of expired snacks really weren't as good as handwritten exercise books. Your question has already been received by the Heavenly Secrets warehouse. You'll need to wait about 3 or 4 minutes for the answer to appear in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. The golden 3-inch man rolled up the Book of Heavenly Secrets again and put it in front of Wang Ling. Waiting for 3 or 4 minutes was just enough time for a song. Suddenly, the little golden man had an idea, and decided to play a song for Wang Ling. Listen, this song. The little golden man just clapped his hands, and a melodious, 3-dimensional voice instantly filled the room. The prelude to the beautiful song rang out. Wang Ling, this is the little golden man, this is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing. Each of us Heavenly Tao has a different task. When many cultivators pass away in meditation, a lantern will appear in front of them and they will also hear melodious music, which is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing silently behind them. Thus, the Heavenly Tao songstress's voice isn't something that ordinary people can hear. The Heavenly Tao songstress's voice has countless variations, and it's a collection of the most beautiful voices in the entire dimensional universe. Every voice can be studied to imitate a musical instrument, so the Heavenly Tao songstress can sing as she sings. Wang Ling, At that moment, the Heavenly Tao songstress, who had countless voices, had already finished singing the prelude. The song officially began, always asking for things from me, but never saying thank you. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized that crispy noodle snacks were cheap. Every time I made a deal, I pretended to be relaxed, smiling and saying, let's make a deal, I'll give you the expired snacks. The little golden man. So, is there anything you want to say? Wang Ling, it sounds good. The little golden man had already completely given up on resisting Wang Ling. Forget it, if it's expired, then so be it. Chapter 794. The Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee was essentially a foundation. Although it hadn't been established for long, it had already helped many small and medium-sized enterprises build bridges with the newly established Light Force sects, recommend investments, analyze the market, and achieve a win-win situation in the short term. Note that the angel investors mentioned here were all small and medium-sized enterprises. The truly large consortiums wouldn't contact them through intermediaries. Companies nowadays paid attention to compounding profits. If they wanted to achieve economic growth in the short term, they had a large enough capital chain, so they didn't have to consider long-term investments. Thus, investing in new sects was very beneficial for some small and medium-sized enterprises. Everyone was in the stage of development, and investing in 1 or 2 sects that looked like they had more potential would give them a certain proportion of shares. If the sect developed in the future, it would be a very considerable income. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had learned a little about the investment committee before. If the bosses really took a fancy to a sect, it would actually be very easy to pull in 1 or 2 billion. Some rich and overbearing enterprises could even invest several billion in the initial construction of the sect, but this was all in Huaxia currency. Whether it was Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal or Ajua, this was the first time they had heard of a company investing directly in immortal gold. Converted to Huaxia currency, this investment was a whole 400 billion. Did this boss have a mine at home? 1 billion immortal gold, he's definitely a mine owner. Cailian Jinren and the others were also shocked by this figure. I think we still need to be a little more cautious. But Face held his 2 paws and swung his tail. Brother Dog is right. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Although Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had expected that the sect structure would definitely attract investors who would be genuinely interested, offering 1 billion immortal gold right off the bat was too much of an exaggeration, and it felt like they were deliberately taking the bait. Do you have any relevant information on the company you're investing in? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked Audjua. After returning from the remains, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had asked Audjua to take care of the Enterprise Investment Committee. Because of Audjua's position in the general administration of 100 schools, it was very convenient for him to ask colleagues from other departments, otherwise this process would have taken some time. All the companies that have been approved by the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee have already passed the relevant qualification checks. That colleague just gave me the information on that company. Its full name is Anderson Technology, and it has branches both at home and abroad, mainly focusing on cultivating children's interest in cultivation. Child cultivation. This word was actually quite new to the ears of many people here, because no one here had children. But in fact, the term child cultivation was not a new term. Children's cultivation is a newly developed sunshine industry in the last few decades. There are various types of industries, which are intended to cultivate children's interest in cultivation from a young age and unearth their potential in cultivation. Anderson Technologies has made great achievements in the field of psychological counseling and motivation, as well as building a foundation for preschool children, said Audjua. There was nothing much to say about the field of psychological counseling and encouragement. Through one-on-one or one-on-many psychological counseling sessions, children who were not very interested in cultivation would be guided to develop an interest in it. Based on scientific data, even if they were not very talented, if they had a strong passion for cultivation from a young age, it would be of great help to their later growth. As for the foundation for preschoolers, this industry was also one of the signboards of Anderson Technology. It was mainly for preschoolers to lay a solid foundation before they built their foundation in the future, in order to prevent situations where their foundation was unstable. If the foundation of their realm was unstable, then there would be a long period of bottlenecks when they broke through to the foundation establishment stage, one of the 9 stages of chi condensation. After they advanced to the foundation establishment stage, their realm might even regress. Anderson Technology had developed a variety of products and related courses to help children stabilize their foundation in this field, which were widely praised by parents. Audjua said, using its achievements in these 2 fields, Anderson Technology has opened branches both at home and abroad, attracted several rounds of financing from angel investment companies, and finally successfully went public in the country. This is a legitimate state-owned enterprise. But because Anderson Technology hasn't been around for a long time, it isn't as well known as Heartwarming Water Curtain Group. But given its current annual profit growth rate, by the year after next at the latest, it will definitely be listed among the world's top 500 companies and stand as an equal with Heartwarming Water Curtain Group. So this Anderson Technology is pretty reliable? Listening to Audjua's description of Anderson Technology, the others were all stunned. This is a certified enterprise, so there shouldn't be any problems. But their investment is indeed a little unusual. Audjua also lowered his head in thought. This enterprise had all the qualifications and had outstanding achievements in its field, but for some reason, Audjua had an ominous premonition. If this angel investment of 1 billion immortal gold went ahead, Anderson Technology would probably own almost 70 to 80% of the General Office of Strategic Deception's shares. Although Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a lot of startup capital, it was far less than 1 billion immortal gold. 1 billion immortal gold. Even if he used it to set up a new sect, he would be able to open 7 or 8. In any case, I think we should be a little more cautious. What do you think, brothers? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Senior Immortal is right. Salian Jinrin nodded. Investing is certainly a good thing, but sometimes there are risks. We've only met the other party by chance. Even if they're interested in our sect, it doesn't seem normal for them to invest such a huge sum in one go. It's good to be cautious. Dharmaraja also nodded. Good. Brother Joie, I'll have to trouble you to contact that colleague of yours. We'll set up a time with this investor to visit some of the sex sites. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then looked at Joie. In any case, since the other party had come to invest with such sincerity, it wouldn't look good to directly reject them. Anderson Technology was a big company. Although they didn't know why they would suddenly want to invest in a new sect, and it seemed like there was something fishy about it, in any case, they still had to meet with the person in charge first. At the very least, they had to understand what they were thinking. When? Joie asked. Let's make an appointment tomorrow morning, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Chapter 795. The Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee was essentially a foundation. Although it hadn't been around for long, it had already helped a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises build bridges with newly established light force sects by recommending investments and analyzing the market, thus achieving a win-win situation in the short term. Note that the angel investors mentioned here were all small and medium-sized enterprises. The truly large consortiums wouldn't contact them through intermediaries. Companies nowadays paid attention to compounding profits. If they wanted to achieve economic growth in the short term, they had a large enough capital chain, so they didn't have to consider long-term investments. Thus, investing in new sects was very beneficial for some small and medium-sized enterprises. Everyone was in the stage of development, and investing in one or two sects that looked like they had more potential would give them a certain proportion of shares. If the sect developed in the future, it would be a very considerable income. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had learned a little about the investment committee before. If the bosses really took a fancy to a sect, it would actually be very easy to pull in 1 or 2 billion. Some rich and overbearing enterprises could even invest several billion in the initial construction of the sect, but this was all in Huaxia currency. Whether it was Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal or Joie, this was the first time they had heard of a company investing directly in immortal gold. Converted to Huaxia currency, this investment was a whole 400 billion. Did this boss have a mine? 1 billion immortal gold, he's definitely a mine owner. Cailian Jinren and the others were also shocked by this figure. I think we still need to be a little more cautious. But Face held his 2 paws and swung his tail. Brother Dog is right. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Although Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had expected that the sect structure would definitely attract investors who would be genuinely interested, offering 1 billion immortal gold right off the bat was too exaggerated, and it smelled like they were deliberately taking the bait. Do you have any relevant information on the company you're investing in? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked Joie. After returning from the remains, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had asked Joie to take care of the Enterprise Investment Committee. Because of Joie's position in the general administration of 100 schools, it was very convenient for him to ask colleagues from other departments, otherwise this process would have taken some time. All the companies that have been approved by the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee have already passed the relevant qualification checks. Just now, my colleague from that department showed me the information on that company. Its full name is Anderson Technology, and it has branches both at home and abroad, mainly focusing on cultivating children's interest in cultivation. Child cultivation. This word was actually quite new to the ears of many people here, because no one here had children. But in fact, the term child cultivation was not a new term. Children's cultivation is a newly developed sunshine industry in the last few decades. There are various types of industries, which are intended to cultivate children's interest in cultivation from a young age and unearth their potential in cultivation. Anderson Technologies has made great achievements in the field of psychological counseling and motivation, as well as building a foundation for preschool children, said Joie. There was nothing much to say about the field of psychological counseling and encouragement. Through one-on-one or one-on-many psychological counseling sessions, children who were not very interested in cultivation would be guided to develop an interest in it. Based on scientific data, even if they were not very talented, if they had a strong passion for cultivation from a young age, it would be of great help to their later growth. As for the building foundation for preschoolers, this industry was also one of the signboards of Anderson technology. It was mainly for preschoolers to lay a solid foundation before they built their foundation in the future, in order to prevent situations where their foundation was unstable. If the foundation of their realm was unstable, then there would be a long period of bottlenecks when they broke through to the foundation establishment stage, one of the 9 stages of Qi condensation. After they advanced to the foundation establishment stage, their realm might even regress. Anderson Technology had developed a variety of products and related courses to help children stabilize their foundation in this field, which were widely praised by parents. Audiobook said, using its achievements in these 2 fields, Anderson Technology has opened branches both at home and abroad, attracted several rounds of financing from angel investment companies, and finally successfully went public in the country. This is a legitimate state-owned enterprise. But because Anderson Technology hasn't been around for a long time, it isn't as well known as Heartwarming Water Curtain Group. But given its current annual profit growth rate, by the year after next at the latest, it will definitely be listed among the world's top 500 companies and stand as an equal with Heartwarming Water Curtain Group. So this Anderson Technology is pretty reliable? Listening to Audiobook's description of Anderson Technology, the others were all dumbfounded. This is a certified enterprise, so there shouldn't be any problems. But their investment is indeed a little unusual. Audiobook also lowered his head in thought. This enterprise had all the qualifications and had outstanding achievements in its field, but for some reason, Audiobook had an ominous premonition. If this angel investment of 1 billion immortal gold went ahead, Anderson Technology would probably own almost 70 to 80% of the General Office of Strategic Deception's shares. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a lot of startup capital, it was far less than 1 billion immortal gold. 1 billion immortal gold. Even if he used it to set up a new sect, he would be able to open 7 or 8. In any case, I think we should be a little more cautious. What do you all think, brothers? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Senior Immortal is right. Salian Jinrin nodded. Investing is certainly a good thing, but sometimes there are risks. We've only met the other party by chance. Even if they're interested in our sect, it doesn't seem normal for them to invest such a huge sum in one go. It's good to be cautious. Dharmaraja also nodded. Good. Brother Joie, I'll have to trouble you to contact that colleague of yours. We'll set up a time with this investor to visit some of the sect's sites. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then looked at Audiobook. In any case, since the other party had come to invest with such sincerity, it wouldn't look good to directly refuse. Anderson Technology was a big company. Although they didn't know why they would suddenly want to invest in a new sect, which seemed to be full of tricks, in any case, they still had to meet with the relevant person in charge. At the very least, they had to understand what they were thinking. When? Audiobook asked. Tomorrow morning, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Chapter 796. This was the fastest meeting in the history of the Heavenly Tao Adjudication Committee. Since ancient times, no one had dared to kill the Heavenly Tao Whitelist. Back then, the Heavenly Tao Whitelist had been created in response to Tao Ancestor Wang's call. The number of people protected by the Heavenly Tao Whitelist was extremely limited, and could be counted on one's fingers. Wang Ling was just one of them. Even so, Wang Ling's position on the whitelist was extremely special. Wang Ling was a Heavenly Tao Whitelist VIP client. Strength Heavenly Tao had already mentioned this early on. Since he was a VIP client, he naturally had VIP privileges. Since everyone is of the same opinion and has decided to punish him, how many days is a suitable punishment? Strength Heavenly Tao asked. Punishment was punishment, and the scale was naturally appropriate. Considering that Wang Jin was Dao ancestor Wang's grandson, if his power of heavenly Dao was confiscated, his strength would naturally be greatly reduced in the short term. If he ran into trouble while his strength was greatly reduced, that would be bad. When Strength Heavenly Dao said this, the Heavenly Dao fell into deep thought. Spirit Heavenly Dao said, "How about 81 days as the limit?" Space Heavenly Dao shook its head. "Isn't 81 days a little too long?" Spirit Heavenly Dao, attacking a VIP whitelist is a crime punishable by death. This is already the greatest protection we can give him. Space Heavenly Dao, but if we're too heavy-handed, I'm afraid it won't be easy to explain to Dao ancestor Wang. If something happens to Wang Jin, how will we explain the situation to His Excellency Dao ancestor when we pay our respects at his heroic spirit palace every year? Hello, His Excellency Dao ancestor. Let's work together to confiscate your grandson Wang Jin's heavenly Dao, and accidentally kill him. Please forgive us, His Excellency Dao ancestor. Well, how about 49 days? No, 49 days is a little long. In the end, time Heavenly Dao sighed. 7 days it is. We'll confiscate all his power of Heavenly Dao for 7 days. I hope he can reflect on his actions in 7 days. Also, we have to send someone down to explain the situation to Wang Jin. If he does anything to that lord again, it won't be as simple as 7 days. The Heavenly Dao nodded. Okay, let's do that. On the other side, in Wang Jin's spiritual domain, the tens of thousands of clones summoned by the Great Separation spell densely filled the entire spiritual space, completely surrounding Wang Ling. These clones were all physical, and as they punched him, it wouldn't be so easy for him to dodge. Wang Ling frowned slightly as he pondered how to deal with this situation. The moment Wang Jin charged with a roar, a golden light actually pierced through the mental domain and directly struck Wang Jin. With a pained roar, Wang Jin was sent flying like a scarecrow. This golden light was very strange. It didn't look like it had penetrated the space wall, but it actually directly transcended space and appeared in Wang Jin's spiritual space. Moreover, this golden light contained the supreme aura of Heavenly Dao. Although the golden light had only appeared for a brief moment, Wang Ling firmly believed that he hadn't smelled it wrong. This was the power of the Heavenly Dao. The appearance of this golden light directly shook Wang Jin away. Struck by this golden light, Wang Jin instantly knew something was wrong. *T. The next moment, his spiritual space split open. Outside Midnight Dining Hall, Wang Jin came back to his senses, his face full of amazement. Separated by a door and a glass wall, he felt Wang Ling's aura inside, and his hands actually started to tremble involuntarily. Now, Wang Jin had a strange feeling. He felt that a lot of the power hidden in his body was slowly flowing away like sand. Wang Jin was shocked. How is this possible? In the next moment, Wang Jin really did feel it. His power of Heavenly Dao disappeared. Furthermore, it had completely disappeared, not even a strand of hair was left. No, how could this be? Wang Jin clutched his head, unable to believe what was happening in front of him. Why couldn't he use any skills? Could it be that the Heavenly Dao skill was on cooldown? That wasn't right. He remembered that the Heavenly Dao skills were all instantaneous, so how could there be a cooldown? This despicable thief had actually set him up. Inside the shop, because Wang Jin's spiritual space had been interrupted by the golden light of Heavenly Dao, he was forced to withdraw from it. In fact, Wang Ling didn't want to leave the spiritual space. He had wanted to take this great opportunity to ask Wang Jin a few questions, but he never expected the Heavenly Dao to actually stop him. A great opportunity to ask questions was ruined just like that. Wang Ling stared outside the door, a little depressed. Looking at the swaying figure outside the door, Tan Qian asked in a very low voice, "Why hasn't the boss come in yet? Has he been at the door all this time?" "Sure." Grenade-throwing senior immortal made a shushing gesture. "Can't you tell? This boss is also a Daoist expert. He looks like he's not moving at the door, but I'm guessing he's probing. Brother Ling happens to be here, so he's communicating spiritually with this boss. In a fight between experts, the lowest level was to start fighting as soon as they saw each other. The intermediate level was to first rely on a battle of words to force the other party to make a move first, and the highest level was nothing more than the current situation. Both sides didn't seem to be moving, but in fact, they had already permeated each other's spirits and were having a friendly exchange of pointers. Tan Qian was suddenly enlightened. So that's how it is, as expected of Ling Jinren. Wang Ling didn't know about the Heavenly Tao whitelist, and didn't know that Wang Zhen had been forced to leave the spiritual space because the Heavenly Tao had ruled that his Heavenly Tao had been confiscated. However, he saw Wang Zhen standing outside the door looking like his wife had been snatched away. Wang Ling guessed that this person had probably run into some kind of thorny problem. Should he go and take a look? Wang Ling got up and slowly walked over. Wang Zhen was so startled by Wang Ling's movement that all his hair stood on end. Although he didn't know why he suddenly couldn't use the power of Heavenly Tao, but Wang Zhen also knew that all of this had something to do with Wang Ling. This person's strength was even more terrifying than he had imagined. He could actually restrain the power of Heavenly Tao. If he was just a simple thief, how could he have this kind of ability? After thinking it over at top speed, Wang Zhen couldn't help feeling a storm in his heart. Although he didn't want to admit it, Wang Zhen indeed had no choice but to re-examine Wang Ling. He wondered if he had recognized the wrong person. Maybe this senior inside wasn't the thief, and the thief was someone else. Just as Wang Zhen was about to open his mouth to talk to Wang Ling, dark clouds gathered in the sky at that moment and thunder rumbled. When Wang Zhen turned his head to look behind him, his expression changed dramatically. Leave him. It was as if he heard the sound of great Tao that only he could hear. In the next moment, this sound of great Tao turned into a bolt of heavenly lightning that pierced through his head. This scene, Wang Zhen couldn't be more familiar with it. Heavenly Tao lightning, plus the fact that he couldn't use Heavenly Tao spells. At that moment, Wang Zhen was finally convinced that he had been judged by the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 797. This situation was completely out of Wang Zhen's expectations, and far beyond his own. He never thought that he would actually be wanted by Heavenly Tao while he was still alive. A bolt of heavenly punishment struck him precisely on the top of his head. This was a warning, not a threat to his life, so apart from turning his hair into an afro, it didn't affect his body in any other way. But what Wang Zhen could be sure of was that if he continued to get close to Wang Ling, given that he was wanted by Heavenly Tao's lightning of heavenly punishment would fall continuously, and each strike would be stronger than the last. Thus, after recognizing this fact, Wang Zhen's first reaction was to retreat. He had no other choice now. In a situation where the power of the Heavenly Tao was prohibited, his overall combat strength was greatly reduced. Perhaps if he were to fight Bai Zhenao, it was possible that he could end up in a draw, or even be at a disadvantage. If he were to continue to be injured in such a state, it would really cost him his life. When Wang Zhen saw Wang Ling's aura approaching him, he almost hysterically yelled at the small shop, You, don't come over here. Wang Zhen was horrified to realize that he actually couldn't resist Wang Ling's aura. Now that he had lost the power of Heavenly Tao, the other party's oppression was several times stronger. No. Several times stronger. Wang Ling, who didn't know what was going on with Wang Zhen, just wanted to check on him. Who knew that as soon as he approached, Wang Zhen would start screaming as if he had seen a ghost. When Wang Ling opened the door and saw Wang Zhen directly cupped his face in his hands, and even his appearance had turned into the world-famous painting, The Scream. As he screamed, Wang Zhen could only shake his feet and start to retreat frantically. But before he could get far, Wang Ling saw Wang Zhen cry out as he fell head first to the ground in the distance. His body had actually gone limp from fear under the oppressive aura, and when he flew through the air, He lost the strength to support himself and directly fell to the ground. Boss Tan's younger brother Tan Qian and grenade-throwing senior immortal were horrified at this scene. What happened? Tan Qian looked into the distance. Damn, why does the boss look like he's seen a ghost? Grenade-throwing senior immortal cupped his chin and seemed to understand the current situation a little. Sure enough, my decision to bring Brother Ling here was the right one. If you don't do anything shameful, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Brother Ling has never met this boss before, yet he's scared to this extent. This boss must have a guilty conscience. Looks like there's something wrong with this Tushing technology. Wang Ling was speechless. Huh? He's really Bougie Island. Who knew why this person attacked him as soon as they met? He even claimed that he was a thief. Just a moment ago, he was still acting like he was going to use the heavenly Tao to punish him. In the blink of an eye, this person had left the battlefield. Not only did he disconnect, but he also looked as if he had seen a ghost. Thus, Wang Ling stopped moving. After observing for a moment, he saw the man struggling to crawl out of the ground like a drowning salted fish. His face was deathly pale, and the expression on his face was incomparably ferocious. Those who didn't know might think that he was bewitched. Brother Ling, this person doesn't look too good. Is he sick? Do you want to go take a look? Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked. He had overlooked a situation just now. If there was nothing wrong with this boss, then it was very likely that he himself was sick. Unfortunately, it had flared up at this stage of the negotiation. This was also one possibility. Wang Ling pursed his lips. He had too many questions to ask Wang Zhen. But just as he took a step in Wang Zhen's direction, the latter quickly cried out in alarm like before, "Mo, devil. Don't come any closer. I surrender." When Wang Zhen cried out in alarm, his throat was clearly trembling. Wang Ling didn't believe it, and took another step forward. Then, he saw Wang Zhen's eyes directly roll back into his head, and he straightaway became motionless. Grenade-throwing senior immortal slowly walked over and checked Wang Zhen's condition. He was still breathing, but he had already completely fainted from fear. At the same time, this scene was also witnessed by the 6 great heavenly Tao in the alternate dimension. Wang Zhen had already fainted, so the lightning of heavenly punishment naturally stopped. Wang Zhen was no longer a threat to Wang Ling, and it was very clear that he had also received the punishment he deserved. Even if the power of heavenly Tao recovered in 7 days, it would probably take some time before it could make a move against Wang Ling again. Strength heavenly Tao sighed. If you had known this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Life and death heavenly Tao smoothed things over. He can't be blamed for everything. After all, apart from the ancestor of Tao creation, no one else knows about the whitelist rule. That's right. Space heavenly Tao nodded. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It's also good for Wang Zhen to know about it earlier. After all, that person's identity is very special. It's better to recognize friend from foe and let go of past grudges and grievances. In the end, it was all thanks to his ancestors that he could achieve what he had today. Unfortunately, the Wang family has been imitating His Excellency Tao ancestor all these years, but no one from the Wang family has ever been able to surpass him. In the end, His Excellency Tao ancestor's era is over. I don't think so. Spirit Heavenly Tao had a different view. In the end, Ling's existence is a variable. He's someone who can change the entire structure of the Wang family. Otherwise, His Excellency Tao ancestor wouldn't have paid the price in blood back then. Soul Heavenly Tao, they've been fighting below all this time. Why didn't His Excellency Tao ancestor make things clear from the beginning? At the very least, he should have left some information. The misunderstanding is getting bigger and bigger now. If things can't be stopped in the end, what should we do? Time Heavenly Tao, the secrets of heaven can't be revealed. Some things can only be understood and not explained. If His Excellency Dao ancestor made everything clear, there would be no point in testing the descendants of the Wang family. It's easy to obtain Dao, but difficult to comprehend it. Apart from Dao itself, no one can take the 3,000 great spells away. When Time Heavenly Dao said this, all the Heavenly Dao fell into deep thought. They recalled Dao ancestor Wang's hopeful expression when he had set up this game of chess back then. He had always firmly believed that the descendants of the Wang family could break through fate and break through this obstacle. As Time Heavenly Dao said, it was easy to obtain Dao, but difficult to comprehend it. Sometimes, letting go of obsession wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Unfortunately, as the eldest grandson of the Wang family, Wang Zhen didn't know when he would understand this principle. Chapter 798. After Wang Zhen fell unconscious, Wang Ling used the great teleportation spell to teleport Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Zhen to Chrysanthemum Island, where Immortal Toya was. Ever since Immortal Toya had overcome the Kuan's belly girl's coma, he had made new breakthroughs in his research on difficult diseases like coma, and had developed many new drugs. These drugs might not work on the Kuan's belly girl, but surprisingly, they were very effective on patients suffering from vegetative diseases in the outside world. It was said that a lot of patients suffering from vegetative diseases who had been unconscious for more than 100 years had miraculously woken up recently. Almost every day, couriers would come to Immortal Toya's island to deliver silk banners as fast as possible. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling and Wang Zhen landed directly at the place where Immortal Toya refined elixirs. In the alchemy room, the Kuan's belly girl was wearing a snow-white hospital gown, which Cailian Jinren had asked Immortal Toya to change into. The gown was made of a special material that would automatically clean the dirt on the skin, so there was no need to bathe even if she was unconscious. Furthermore, the gown was very thin, so acupuncture could still be performed on her acupuncture points even if she was wearing clothes. Brother 2, where are Jin Shi and Yin Shi? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked as soon as they landed. He had already sent them a text message before coming, so Immortal Toya wasn't frightened at all. He smiled slightly. Jin Shi and Yin Shi are outside receiving deliveries. They probably received a lot of silk banners today. Where's the patient? Let me take a look. Saying that, Immortal Toya cleaned his hands and turned his gaze to Wang Zhen. He waved his fingers in the air, and Wang Zhen's eyelids were pulled by a small gravitational force. After checking Wang Zhen's pupils, Immortal Toya took his pulse and looked inside Wang Zhen's body. Brother 2, how is it? It's probably an intermittent coma caused by shock, but it's nothing compared to the symptoms of the Kuan's belly girl. This gentleman is very strong, even if I don't prescribe him medicine, he'll be able to recover on his own. Sometimes, it's mostly psychological factors. As for how long it will take for him to wake up, it all depends on the extent of this gentleman's psychological trauma. Of course, you can still use medicine. I'll make some medicine later and inject it into this gentleman. He might wake up soon, Immortal Toya said. That's good. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. But speaking of which, Senior Immortal, what scared this gentleman to this extent? He's one of my investment clients. We were supposed to meet today, and I wanted Brother Ling to check on him for me. I didn't expect this client to test Brother Ling's spirit as soon as he came up, and after the test, he was so scared by Brother Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed a little gloomily. Wang Ling, scared of Ling Jinren. Immortal Toya frowned deeply. Ling Jinren is such an amiable person, how could he scare someone like this? I think Senior Immortal should be careful. This gentleman is most likely up to no good, perhaps he's not here to invest at all. The so-called investment is just an excuse. Thank you for the reminder, Brother 2. I'll be extra careful from now on. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, actually, while we were waiting for the investment at Midnight Dining Hall, brother Daoist Guang introduced me to a reliable investor. I heard that it was his #1 fan who recommended him, and brother Guang acted as a go-between and built an excellent bridge for us. Wang Ling, the #1 fan, without a doubt, this #1 fan was Father Wang. Recently, Father Wang had been fascinated by Daoist Guang's live stream. Ever since the chicken dinner, he had been watching it almost every day. Furthermore, he was far ahead in terms of contributions as a fan, and his ID was still that did 3 days and 2 sleeps update today. That was to say, Father Wang had helped recommend an investor. Who on earth could it be? What kind of investor? Immortal Toya asked. We don't know who it is yet, we'll only know after we meet. The other party's person in charge has already set a time for tonight. Brother Ling and I will be just in time to catch up, said grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. In that case, I wish Senior Immortal success in advance. Immortal Toya smiled. But I hope that before Senior Immortal and Jinren leave, you can help me control this gentleman. He's very strong, and if he does something out of fear after he wakes up and destroys my Chrysanthemum Island, it won't be worth it. After he wakes up, I'll immediately inform Senior Immortal and Jinren. Wang Ling nodded, this was a given. Given Wang Jin's strength. Wang Ling estimated that even 1,000 Immortal Toyas couldn't match up to 1/10 or 2/10 of Wang Jin's battle strength. This was a very strong opponent. So Wang Ling raised his hand and didn't stand on ceremony with Wang Jin's suppressive spells, and directly used the Great Confinement spell, Great Magic Suppression spell, Great Spirit Sealing spell, Great Suppression spell, Great Gravity spell, a total of more than 30 Heavenly Dao to suppress Wang Jin in all aspects. If Wang Ling hadn't undone these spells, Wang Jin would actually be no different from a vegetable. That night, after the failed negotiations in the afternoon, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling returned to Midnight Dining Hall, where Boss Tan's younger brother Tan Qian worked. The second investor, whom Daoist Guang and his #1 fan had recommended, was a reliable one, and the appointed time was 7:00 in the evening. It was now less than 5 minutes to 7:00. Because this person had been recommended by Father Wang, Wang Ling wasn't sure if this person had seen him before, so he cast the Great Transfiguration spell on himself to make a simple change in appearance. Wang Ling had always been cautious, so when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw Wang Ling's actions, he already understood and didn't ask too many questions. A few minutes later, a figure appeared at the entrance of the shop. After pushing the door open, the person bowed deeply to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling. Hello, I'm the person in charge of the investment negotiations this time. You can call me my Yuqiang or Aomai. Brother Aomai, please sit down. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hurriedly got up. Seeing this, Tan Qian also hurriedly turned around to prepare food. Senior Immortal, you don't have to be so polite. I'm just following orders. This man called Aomai was full of smiles. Senior Immortal, you can rest assured about this investment. Our higher-ups have already decided to fully support Senior Immortal's sect development. Aren't you going to take a look at the location of my sect? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stupefied. This had actually already been decided. The higher-ups believe that you can rest assured and leave the sect's operations to Senior Immortal. We're only responsible for delivering money, oh, no, for investing. May I ask who Brother Aomai's higher-ups are? Huaxiao Nation's Alliance of Cultivators, also known as Huaxiao Alliance. The head of state will take the lead in this investment plan, and the 10 generals will invest separately. The total investment is 2 billion immortal gold bars. Chapter 799. 2 billion, that's a lot. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth dropped so wide that he felt like he could stuff an egg into it. 2 billion immortal gold, this investment was too exaggerated. This was no longer a problem of having a mine at home. The person in charge, cleared his throat. Perfected Immortal is indeed someone who has seen the world. Ordinary bosses would definitely faint on the spot when they hear this number. This shows that Perfected Immortal is indeed capable of accepting this angel investment. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, no, he was just too shocked and forgot to faint for a moment. At this point, I looked at the disguised Wang Ling, Senior Immortal. May I ask who this is? This is Ling Jinren, our sect's future guest official, as well as one of the main officers, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. So this is Ling Jinren. Sorry for not recognizing you. Wang Ling's heart trembled. His Daoist name, Ling Jinren, had always been a shell, like a smurf. He had never known that his Daoist name would actually have a voice outside the chat group. It seemed like it was time for him to change his Daoist name. For a moment, Wang Ling's mind was full of thoughts as he pondered his new Daoist name. My king. I have already left the palace. How about crispy noodle snacks? After learning that the person sitting next to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was Ling Jinren, Amai's expression instantly turned solemn. I really didn't know that Ling Jinren would actually be traveling with Senior Immortal this time. To be honest, I'm a little excited just thinking about it. This feeling is even better than buying 10 family buckets and eating the skin of a finger-sucking original chicken. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Brother Ling has always kept a low profile. How did Brother Amai find out about him? Ling Jinren naturally keeps a low profile, but Senior Immortal, you should know how many people are watching your cultivation forum. It really isn't easy for Senior Immortal to run it to this extent. Actually, there were a lot of posts online analyzing Senior Immortal's backer, and in the end, it was only natural that they would find Ling Jinren. Now, this Daoist name Ling Jinren was quite famous not only in Senior Immortal's forum, but also on other websites. Actually, I'm also very curious. How did you manage your website? How is it managed so well? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's face flushed from the praise. Not at all, not at all, it's all thanks to Brother Ling and the nation. Read more books, read more newspapers, eat less snacks, sleep more, pay your internet fees on time, and pay your taxes on time. You are right, perfected cultivator. I nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Just recently, the Tax Bureau exposed a showbiz actress's Enyang contract, and the fine was 800 million immortal gold. This matter caused quite a stir. Thus, after listening to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's words, Amai was extremely moved. As expected, Senior Immortal is a man who sees the big picture. Huaxiao Alliance hadn't chosen the wrong person. Actually, Huaxiao Alliance already had plans to invest in the cultivation forum to begin with. When we heard that Senior Immortal wanted to establish a sect, and with the head of state's personal approval, this matter naturally fell into place. So that's how it is. But Brother Amai, 2 billion immortal gold is a bit much. Ha ha ha. Perfected cultivator, please don't decline. Our investment of 2 billion immortal gold won't be paid in one go, but will be divided into 5 installments. After the first installment, it will depend on perfected cultivator's ability to run the sect. If the sect fails, the subsequent investment may have to be put on hold. Perfected cultivator, I need to make this clear first. Of course. Brother Amai's words put my mind at ease. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded and said. Dividing the investment into installments was indeed a more reasonable choice. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very confident in his sect's operation, but he didn't want to cheat other people. While 2 billion immortal gold was a huge investment, the sect was only at the initial stage of construction, after all, and didn't need so much money. There were many aspects that needed to be adjusted before the budget could be determined. When the time came, he wouldn't be able to circulate such a large sum of money to expand the economy, and it would really be a waste of this investment. But if it was divided into 5 installments, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very confident that this investment would be used appropriately. To tell you the truth, Perfected Cultivator, Huaxiao Alliance actually originally planned to invest 1.2 billion immortal gold, grenade-throwing senior immortal, then why did it rise to 2 billion? Oh my, didn't we just get fined 800 million, grenade-throwing senior immortal and Wang Ling? Has Perfected Cultivator thought about the specific date for the sex establishment and announcement? Oh my asked. Of course, next Tuesday is an auspicious day. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, I've already ordered people to complete the overall plan for the sect, and a lot of the facilities have already been set up using the model spell. When the time comes, we just need to move the model onto the ground and cast the spell, and the sect will be established in an instant. That day will also be the day our General Office of Strategic Deception will be established. This is a big deal. After I go back this time, I'll definitely inform Huaxiao Alliance to get in touch. Once Perfected Cultivator has confirmed the specific time for Tuesday, you can let me know, and I'll send out hero invitations to all the major light forces in the name of the General Office of Strategic Deception. Let them witness the birth of this new sect together. Can I send out hero invitations? Grenade-throwing senior immortal had no idea this could be done. Of course you can. I said resolutely, logically speaking, sending out hero invitations to the light forces requires Huaxiao Alliance's approval, which takes 1 to 2 months. But Perfected Cultivator's sect is now in an alliance with Huaxiao Alliance, so the process can naturally be very simple. In that case, thank you, Brother Almai. That's easy. Almai waved his hand. Also, I need to emphasize that Perfected Cultivator can't directly say that this investment is from Huaxiao Alliance, but from a joint investment of private companies. I'll compile a list of the relevant investors and send it to Perfected Cultivator. Who are these private companies? These private companies were established by the children of the 10 generals through their own hard work and sweat, and are also light forces. The situation outside is tense right now, please understand, Perfected Cultivator. Alright. Grenade-throwing senior immortal and Brother Almai looked at each other and smiled, instantly understanding each other. That's right, Perfected Cultivator, do we need special guests for the sex establishment? If you do, Perfected Cultivator, feel free to point them out. On your behalf, we can call all the big shots of the light forces, including the sect leader. We do need guests, but wouldn't that be too high profile? I don't need many people, just 10. Just 10 people. There are millions of light forces, and Perfected Cultivator only needs 10 people, that's really too low-key. As expected of Perfected Cultivator. Which 10 do you want? Tell me about it. Are the 10 generals free? Chapter 800. It was the evening of August 6 on Sunday in the 15th week of the semester. The investment in Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's new General Office of Strategic Deception sect had officially been signed at the Midnight Dining Hall branch opened by Boss Tan's younger brother. The total investment amount was 2 billion immortal gold, and would be divided into 5 installments of 400 million each to be transferred to the General Office of Strategic Deception's bank account for the sect's construction. That night, the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee, or simply the Green Investment Committee for short, announced the news on its official website. This news was also announced on the official website, and for a moment, hundreds of thousands of light sects in Huaxiao Nation were shaken. No one could have imagined that a newly established sect would actually have so much power to attract such a large amount of angel investment. This had already broken the Green Investment Committee's investment history. The largest investment it had pulled in the last time was 8 billion, but this was only in ordinary Huaxiao currency. It couldn't compare to 400 million immortal gold at all. 100 million immortal gold was equivalent to 40 billion, 400 million immortal gold was equivalent to 160 billion, which was 20 times more than what the Green Investment Committee had invested in the second place. What kind of power was this? Light Force sects were divided into 5 classes: Sky, Earth, Black, Yellow, and Earth. A sex class was assessed at the time of its construction, which was called a preliminary assessment. The preliminary assessment was based on the sect's core members' lineup and battle strength, the sect leader's status and influence in the cultivation circle, as well as the sect's overall construction and economic strength in the early stages. After the sect was established, Huaxiao Alliance would conduct a fair assessment of the sect's disciple recruitment and operating standards each year, based on the sect's date of establishment and the sect's performance. Based on this preliminary assessment, the sect's rating would be raised or lowered. That night, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's General Office of Strategic Deception's preliminary assessment was also released by Huaxiao Alliance, Sky-level 3rd class sect, a Sky-level sect right off the bat, and a 3rd class one at that. This preliminary assessment shocked everyone in the Light Force circle. Perhaps a lot of people who didn't understand this assessment wouldn't have any idea, but if they compared it with the ratio, it was quite shocking. There were 320,000 registered legal light forces in Huaxiao Nation, of which 95% were Black, Yellow, and Earth-level sects, 3% were Earth-level sects, and only 2% were Sky-level sects. According to this ratio, among the more than 6,000 Sky-level sects, there were less than 20 sects that were ranked 5th or higher. Most of the Sky-level sects were 7th, 8th, and 9th grade sections. Among them, the competition between the Heaven-rank 9th rank sects was the fiercest. If they were not careful, they might drop to the Earth rank in the second year's assessment. Therefore, the birth of a Sky-level sect had to go through a historical evaluation. Currently, the top 20 Sky-level sects in the records all had sect histories of hundreds or even thousands of years. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's new sect, which had just been established, had actually been assessed as Sky-level Class 3. A lot of people paled at the sight of such a formidable starting strength. Many of the big shots of the light forces started to investigate the investors behind their sections. In the end, according to the Green Investment Commission, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's sect was a joint venture. Furthermore, these joint venture companies were involved in various industries and had very wide connections. It was actually very difficult to investigate them all at once. There were even some low-key companies who usually didn't appear in the news and didn't have any gossip about them. They were the kind of companies that made money in silence. Even the bosses of these companies were very low-key, and their names were actually very unfamiliar. All of this was naturally thanks to Amai. He had already achieved his goal. Sky-level Class 3. Senior Immortal is too strong. And he managed to pull in so many big shots to invest in him. After seeing the news in the chat group, Dharmaraja sent out a series of emojis. Tsalianjanran, Senior Immortal is awesome. Ajwa, Senior Immortal is awesome. Daoist Guang, Senior Immortal is awesome. Loopy Toad, Senior Immortal is awesome. Immortal Toya, Senior Immortal is awesome. Little Silver, Grenade throwing is awesome. Wei Ji, congratulations, Senior Immortal. Fang Xing, the formation is off, OCD is so uncomfortable. Wang Ling, it's mainly because Brother Ling's fame has spread far and wide that the investment this time went very smoothly. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was very modest. To be honest, even he himself had never expected this investment to go so smoothly. Everything had simply gone so smoothly that it was unimaginable. Apart from his many years of accumulation and planning, the person he should be most grateful to was actually Wang Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wasn't a fool, and he was well aware of this. While he had a wide network of contacts, how could they compare to this brother Ling of his? Daoist Guang might be able to pull in investments for him because of Wang Ling, and a large part of the reason why these big shots had responded to his sect's call for investments was also because of this. Speaking seriously, I just read the group announcement. If Senior Immortal has confirmed that the sect will be officially established next Tuesday, then we have to take precautions accordingly. Salianjanrin said, "Tonight, the Green Investment Committee and Huaxiao Alliance have both made announcements, and the Light Force Circle has been greatly shaken. Senior Immortal has sent out hero invitations, and naturally there will be friends who sincerely wish him well. But sometimes, when there's a comparison, people will be jealous. There are already a lot of people investigating the investor behind Senior Immortal. That's fine, just let them investigate." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal laughed. The biggest manipulator in this situation was Huaxiao Alliance, and it would be very difficult to investigate Huaxiao Alliance, but on the day of the sect's official opening, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought that even if he didn't say anything, as long as the 10 generals showed up, the Light Force sect bigwigs would be well aware of it. But in the group, only Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself, Wang Ling and Daoist Guang, who had been responsible for setting up the bridge back then, knew about Huaxiao Alliance's investment. Because of the need to keep it confidential, this matter couldn't be made public for the time being, including the core members who didn't know about it. Since they didn't understand, a lot of people in the group would naturally be worried. You can't let your guard down. Everyone, don't worry. I prepared myself for any eventuality. Everyone, please conserve your energy and get ready to witness the opening ceremony of our General Office of Strategic Deception next Tuesday, August 8th. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sent a fist salute and a cheering emoji, and then suddenly remembered that there was something else he hadn't said. Oh, that's right, after discussing it with Brother Ling will be changing his Daoist name to join the sect as a visiting official and leader of the sect's recreation hall. Ling Jinren's new Daoist name. What is it? A lot of people asked. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch, this is Brother Ling's new Daoist name. Everyone, quickly write it down in your notebooks. Chapter 801. For a moment, the establishment of the new sect made all the light forces nervous. That night, many sky-level sects received invitations from Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to join the new sect. In many people's view, this was a show of strength, as if he was using his actions to tell everyone that the new sect wasn't afraid of any challenge. It was rare to see a sect established with such grandeur. In the history of the famous heavenly sects, the Reliant sect was the one with the most momentum. However, most new sects were established with the feeling of having 3 fires burning in them. Thus, Reliant sect's reputation was the most resounding in the first and second years of its establishment. Later, as the sect leader, Patriarch Reliance went to set up a school affiliated with the sect, became its headmaster, and began to work in the education industry. Patriarch Reliance was a smart man. He understood the principle that a tall tree attracts the wind easily attracts trouble. It was precisely because of this that Patriarch Reliance, in the 2 years since the founding of the sect, had deliberately suppressed its power. It could be said that he had a tacit understanding to maintain the balance between the heaven-class sects of the Light faction. The full name of the Sky Light Alliance was the Sky-Level Sect Light Alliance Exchange Committee. This was a non-governmental organization set up by sky-level sects at or above the 5th level, and its nature was to manage finances. Back then, the Sky Light Alliance had been established to deal with the cash flow problem of sects at or above the 5th level. The 5th level of a sky-level sect was a watershed, and to reach it required at least 100 or even 1,000 years of foundation. Many sects that had reached the 5th level would basically run into a cash flow problem in the short term, which was why the Sky Light Alliance had been established. Thus, sky-level sects at or above the 5th level were now huddling together for warmth, just so that their level wouldn't drop so easily. This was a little like the level jams in games. Some players who were good at playing would deliberately form groups of jams and organize actors in high-level games to maintain their own levels. In fact, this phenomenon had been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, whether it was the balance of power or the Sky Light Alliance, it was directly broken the night Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal announced the establishment of his new sect. As of today, there were already 17 sects above the 5th level that had joined the Sky Light Alliance, accounting for 80% of the total. Of the 4 that hadn't joined, one of them was a first-rank sect, the Immortal Palm Tree Sect. Behind the Immortal Palm Tree Sect was the Huagua Water Curtain Group. This was a subsidiary sect of the Huagua Water Curtain Group, and its main business was nurturing various kinds of alchemists. As for the remaining 3 sects, one of them was a level 3 sect, the Fighting Horse Sect. This was a subsidiary sect of the Shao clan. This sect operated a legal horse betting ring. The other was a level 2 sect, the Thousand Beasts Sect. This sect's main business was to raise spiritual beasts. The head of this sect was also an acquaintance of grenade-throwing senior immortal, Crying Old Immortal. This was the vice president of the Pet Trainers Guild. In fact, a grenade-throwing senior immortal had already known Wei Ji before he had met him. The last third-class sect was naturally grenade-throwing senior immortals, General Office of Strategic Deception. A long time ago, the number of sky-level light sects above the 5th level had been maintained at 20. Now that a sky-level 3rd level sect had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, the first to feel threatened were the light forces that had joined the Sky Light Alliance. Most of those who didn't join the alliance had backers behind them, so they disdained joining the alliance at all. The problem was that no one knew if their own sects would fall after grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect was established. Thus, that night, the 17 sects in the Sky Light Alliance gathered their brains and strength and began to analyze and investigate the nature of the General Office of Strategic Deception. How powerful were 17 sky-level sects above the 5th level? For the time being, they still couldn't find out which force was behind grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect, but they had already thoroughly investigated the core members of the organization. More than 10 bigwigs were sitting in the Sky Light Alliance's conference hall. They were all the leaders or deputy leaders of their sects, and had specially convened to discuss countermeasures to deal with grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect. Because of the urgency of the situation, some of the bigwigs who were too far away to make it directly used holographic projection technology to participate in the meeting remotely. The president of the Sky Light Alliance was Lu Yuming, the leader of a 4th-class sect called Cthulhuism Society. Although Cthulhuism Society didn't sound like a proper sect, it was in fact a very proper and legal one. Its members mainly collected statues or figurines of evil gods from all over the world. These crudely made figurines and sculptures often hid rare resources or even ancient scrolls of secret techniques. This was because a long time ago, there had been a time when the practice of sealing secret techniques in ugly sculptures was popular. They would break down and analyze these statues and figurines of evil gods, and finally resell the treasures they obtained at a high price. At the same time, this leader of Cthulhuism Society was also a cosplayer. Today, Lu Yuming was cosplaying a character called Bubble Teapot. Sitting in the president's chair, Lu Yuming had a sharp look in his eyes. Everyone, we're facing a huge challenge right now, and it's a critical time of life and death. This new sect is coming at us aggressively. What do you think? This new sect isn't simple. My suggestion is to try and see if we can rope them in first. A sect leader of a 5th-class sect said, "This great death-courting senior isn't simple. I heard that he was able to escape death from evil sword god back then, so he definitely has an expert behind him. As for the other core members of the sect, none of them are simple characters. Xilian Jinren, who's known as the ex-boyfriend killer, Immortal Toya, the successor of the Thunder Clan, Lightning Dharmaraja, and even that director Zhua, who's been in the limelight recently, have all joined as part of the inspection team." That's right, this kind of lineup is unusual. Speaking up to this point, many of the people present sighed endlessly. The sect leader of a 5th-class sect went on to say, "Of course, what worries me the most is that Crispy Noodle's true monarch, who we haven't been able to find a single clue even with the combined strength of our 17 sections. I don't know if it's because I'm ignorant and inexperienced, but I've never heard anything about this Daoist name before. This great death-courting senior has always been cautious, and would never recruit someone he doesn't know. It's a little unusual for him to join out of nowhere. Could he be a sect manager? Someone asked. Sect managers were a profession that had become popular in recent years, and were mainly responsible for improving the overall economic situation of a sect after settling in. However, there had always been a vacancy in the manager circle, and many sects couldn't find anyone. I'm familiar with the sect manager circle, but I've never heard of such a person. Chapter 802. Skylight Alliance. Senior Immortal, are you saying that you've received an email from this alliance? In the chat group, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal shared a screenshot of an email with the group. It was an email from Skylight Alliance, and the gist of it was that they hoped the General Office of Strategic Deception could also join the alliance. Furthermore, it was stated in the email that if Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was willing to join, he would be given the position of deputy leader of the alliance. What do you think? Asked Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. It's very obvious that they're pulling the strings. Lightning Dharmaraja said, I've heard of this alliance a long time ago. There are currently 17 sky-level sects above level 5 in the alliance. During the sect assessment every year, these 17 sects help each other get a rating, so that the sects at the bottom can't get a promotion even if they want to. If they want to get a promotion, they have to pay a protection fee and agree to join the alliance. But our sect has only just been established, and we're already assessed as sky level 3. This is probably beyond their expectations. Has anyone complained? Essentially, the alliance's behavior isn't a crime. It's just that the way they protect each other is a little shameless, so Huaxiao Alliance can't directly manage them. There are endless ways for sects to compete in business, this is too normal. Dharmaraja shook his head and said, furthermore, these are all sky-level sections. To be able to reach level 5 or above naturally means that they have a certain level of foundation, and won't be easily shaken. It's very obvious that this is a test. Saliengenrin sent a sighing emoji. If we don't agree, it's obvious that these 17 sects will join forces to push us aside. This will be very detrimental to our sect's future development. Senior Immortal, you have to be careful. Of course. I've already checked just now, and I can basically find people I know from the 3 sects that haven't joined the alliance. If the 4 of us who haven't joined the alliance join forces, the situation might be very different. Speaking up to this point, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled slightly. Panic was chaos. There was no way they could panic. After all, they still had Wang Ling as their trump card. By the way, I'm very curious as to why Ling Zhenren's new Daoist name is Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. It shouldn't be as simple as Crispy Noodles, right? Dharmaraja suddenly asked in the group at that moment. This was what everyone wanted to know. What realm was Ling Zhenren at? In their eyes, they were like living fossils that had existed for thousands of years. How could they come up with such a seemingly meaningless name? There must be a deeper meaning behind this. Oh, you're asking about this. Brother Ling told me about it before. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch is a Daoist name with a double meaning. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, this crispy noodles doesn't just represent crispy noodles. It's also a verb, meaning that when you slap someone on the face, the sound is very clear and crisp. Everyone, what if * King Crisp? As expected, the culture of Cathay is broad and profound. After all, basically no one in the group had ever been slapped by Wang Ling, and they didn't have this kind of profound experience. But this Daoist name was in fact risky, because if the Mahjong squad in Songhai First Prison heard this Daoist name, they might guess that it represented Wang Ling. Hence, Wang Ling had suggested a very fashionable alternate Daoist name for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Dao Monarch Gone Sea. The format of this Daoist name was the same as Monkey D. Luffy's. It was the second day after Wang Zhen had been sent to Immortal Toya's Chrysanthemum Island. This was also the second patient Immortal Toya had treated on the island in recent months. The first was that Kuin Belly girl, but after a long period of awakening and treatment, the girl had only turned from a deep coma to a shallow one. After a slight skin stimulation, the girl's fingers were already showing signs of moving. Shifu, when will she wake up? Because they had to take care of Wang Zhen, Jin Shi and Yin Shi had been in charge of taking care of the Kuin Belly girl since last night. Acupuncture with golden needles was a profound art, and it was usually hard to find a suitable target to practice on. It just so happened that there was a vegetable lying here. Although Jin Shi and Yin Shi were usually very careful, it didn't matter if they made a mistake. Where could they find such a suitable opportunity to practice together? Immortal Toya heaved a long sigh. This girl's condition is more serious than I thought. If she doesn't wake up soon, she'll only be able to wake up when the daily life of the Immortal King comes to an end, which is when Ling Jinren graduates from Senior 3. Jin Shi and Yin Shi, Immortal Toya, this frivolous author has only written 800 chapters in one semester. There are still 5 semesters before Ling Jinren graduates, which is 4,000 chapters to go. If the girl doesn't wake up soon, I'm afraid she won't wake up for the rest of her life. Jin Shi and Yin Shi, at that moment, Wang Zhen's eyelids trembled slightly as he lay on the Kuin Belly girl's bed, and at the same time, he was babbling nonsense. Wang Zhen was dreaming, his dream was fragmented, and he recalled what seemed to have happened when he was a child. In his dream, Wang Zhen returned to when he had just been born, and his parents surrounded him with happy faces. Our Jinjin is blessed by the heavens. He learned 100 great Tao as soon as he was born. The woman in his dream hugged him gently and smiled warmly at him. The blood of our Wang family flows in Jinjin's veins, and his talent goes without saying. Among the younger generation of our Wang family, he has the best chance of standing up to the Gu family as an equal. That old guy Gu Yanji's son was born not long ago, and only has 50 heavenly Tao. In the end, he's no match for our Wang family's bloodline. After saying that, Wang Zhen saw the man lift him high into the air. Look, our son is so sturdy. He comprehended 100 heavenly Tao as soon as he was born. It won't be long before he achieves spiritual intelligence, and he'll be able to talk and walk. It's best to use medicine to assist him in achieving spiritual intelligence. It'll be a little gentler. The woman smiled. No. But the man waved his hand. The blood of our Wang family flows in Jinjin's veins, and the blood is the best tonic. He'll become dependent on medicine, but I believe that Jinjin will awaken on his own. But in order to help Jinjin awaken, it's better to use physical assistance. Physical assistance. That's right. The man nodded. In the next moment, under the woman's stupefied gaze, he directly threw Wang Zhen to the ground. Wang Zhen wailed loudly. The man stepped on Wang Zhen's head. Honey. Look. Our son's head is so hard. Hurry up and give him a couple of kicks to provoke him. He'll awaken very soon. The woman, is this, okay? The man, trust me. You can't be wrong. On the ground, Wang Zhen, who was wailing loudly, finally burst out with a powerful cry of resistance under the combined beating of the couple. Devil! Stop! Chapter 803. Wang Zhen suddenly woke up with a start. It was as if he had been liberated from a nightmare after being beaten by a couple, who were also his biological parents. But when he woke up, he inspected his body and his surroundings. There was still something wrong with the situation. Because this was the body he had when he was 5 years old. Now, Wang Zhen was in his bedroom. It was as if his entire body had been smeared with anesthetic, and he couldn't move at all. Wang Zhen didn't know where he was now, because he had fainted after coming out of the midnight dining hall. Wang Jin deduced that he had probably unconsciously entered his childhood dream while unconscious. Had he returned to being 5 years old after he was born? After waking up, Wang Jin was a little nostalgic and a little scared. At that moment, a familiar and fearful voice came from outside the door. Jinjin fainted after failing to awaken yesterday. I wonder if he's awake yet. What should we do? I heard that Guqing next door has already mastered 500 heavenly Dao. His mother even came to show off to me yesterday. I'm so angry. For all, honey, don't be angry, you can't blame Jinjin for this. Actually, it's all my fault. The man sighed with some self-blame. It's all my fault for forgetting to communicate with the new physiotherapist. Jinjin absolutely can't use medicine to help him awaken. I didn't think that after the physiotherapist used the medicine yesterday, Jinjin's body would actually instinctively reject it. Then what should we do now? Is there any hope for Jinjin to surpass Guqing? Jinjin has now mastered more than 400 heavenly Dao. As long as Jinjin recovers in the short term, his cultivation progress won't be delayed. Our Wang family's bloodline is the best. Very well, I'll listen to you as to what we should do. After saying that, the couple pushed open the door and entered. Wang Zhen's eyes widened as he stared at the pair of demons in horror. Seeing that Wang Zhen had woken up, his mother hurriedly hugged him. The woman's tremendous strength around Wang Zhen's neck almost caused him to burst. Ah! Jinjin, you're awake. His father touched Wang Zhen's forehead and sighed. You don't have a fever, but you don't look too good. And it seems that Jinjin can't move right now. I think it's an allergic reaction to the medicine. His father sat on the edge of the bed and gripped Wang Zhen's hand tightly. Jinjin, tell Daddy, are you sore, and numb all over right now, and it also seems to be a little itchy? If so, blink. Hearing this, Wang Zhen's eyes suddenly widened, and he didn't dare blink at all. Then, Wang Zhen saw the man stretch out a fist at him. Jinjin, do you see this fist the size of a sandbag? Wang Zhen, his father smiled at him. Son, fist. As soon as he said that, an incomparably dazzling light suddenly erupted from the fist, and Wang Zhen involuntarily quickly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he saw that the light from the solar fist had disappeared. His father stared at him again, his expression very serious. Darling, look, he really blinked. Wang Zhen was so shocked that all the hair on his body stood on end. Forcing yourself to blink was still possible. His mother looked at Wang Zhen with a distressed expression. Then, what should we do? His father, everything is as I deduced. We have to get Jinjin to recover from his allergic reaction as soon as possible. I just asked him if he was itching all over, but didn't he blink? His mother was startled. Darling, do you mean Jinjin's skin is itching now? Wang Zhen, his father nodded. That's right, that's what I mean. And Jinjin even blinked. Wang Zhen, his father, it's not good for a child to have an allergic reaction. It's most likely just itching, so he'll be fine after a beating. His mother had a look of sudden realization. So that's how it is. His father, darling. Now, learn from me. Move your left hand and right hand in slow motion and take turns. His mother had a pained expression on her face, and she sounded like she was about to cry. Okay. Daddy. It's all for Jinjin's good. His father nodded. You must remember to hit every part of your body evenly. I have OCD, if the skin color isn't even, I'll hit him again. Wang Zhen, stop, hurry and stop. 10 minutes later, 5-year-old Wang Zhen was directly beaten into a crispy roast duck by the two of them, and his resistance was successfully activated as he recovered from the allergy. His mother, darling. It really worked. Jinjin can actually move now. His father, as expected of the most outstanding person in our Wong family in recent years, he can actually move after being beaten like this. Next time, I think we can use more strength. No. As soon as the couple said that, Wang Jin woke up with a start again. The dream wasn't over yet. Wang Jin was still in his room, but unlike the last few times, he could already move. He went to the mirror in the room and looked at himself. This was what he looked like when he was 10 years old. This part of his memory, Wang Jin searched it, and found that this part of his memory was actually a blank period. Wang Jin remembered that he had used a spell to selectively lose many of his childhood memories when he grew up. In other words, not being able to remember this part of his memory didn't mean it was a good thing. Wang Jin was blank, and suddenly had a bad feeling. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Wang Jin said as he straightened his clothes. An old woman pushed open the door and came in with a plate covered with a red cloth. This was an old servant of the Wang family, and was also Wang Zhen's wet nurse when he was a child, who had watched him grow up. The old woman put the plate down on the table. "Lord Young Master, Master and Madam have gone out today." Wang Zhen was overjoyed when he heard this. It looked like this demon couple wouldn't abuse him again today, but before he could rejoice, he heard the old woman speak again. "Lord Young Master, Master and Madam have asked you to summon your clone for today's beating and try it on yourself." Wang Zhen, what? The old woman, "The request is the same as before. When you hit yourself, you must control your strength. The skin must be even, and this old servant will take a photo of the entire process for Master to see. If you don't do well, Master said that you can only wait for him to come back and do it again, and he will teach you step by step how to hit yourself." Wang Zhen, after saying that, the old woman took off the red cloth on the plate. Under the red cloth was a mace studded with jade and gold nails, a whip as thick as a Coke bottle, and a feather duster made of phoenix feathers. The old woman, "These are today's equipment. Young Master, please choose." Chapter 804. Wang Zhen was a man with an extremely tragic childhood. He had been beaten up since he was young. In order to stimulate the power of his bloodline to the greatest extent, his real father and mother used this method to beat him up to 1,500 heavenly daos. Because it was too painful, Wang Zhen had used magic to selectively erase his childhood memories when he was an adult. However, such a method would not solve the root of the problem. After countless cycles of nightmares, Wang Zhen finally recovered this memory that he had already discarded. When Wang Zhen woke up for the last time, the environment in the room was completely different. Wang Zhen was glad to find that he had walked out of the nightmare and was no longer in a dream. For Wang Zhen, this was an unfamiliar place. But now, other than opening his eyes and mouth to speak, he seemed to be unable to do anything. Did someone use a heavenly Tao restriction on him? Wang Zhen couldn't be more familiar with this state. This was because when he was resisting his real father and mother when he was young, the couple would often use the heavenly Tao restriction to imprison him before they started to attack him. Although so many years had passed, Wang Zhen was still very familiar with this feeling. Furthermore, Wang Zhen had already developed a way to break the shackles. Wang Zhen closed his eyes and began to chant in his heart, "Key that hides the power of heavenly Tao, show me your true strength. As your master, Wang Zhen commands you, remove the seal." The incantation ended. A few seconds passed. Wang Zhen didn't feel any reaction from his body at all. The seal was lifted. He continued to roar in his heart. "Release! Release!" After struggling for more than 10 minutes, Wang Zhen finally gave up. This was a heavenly Tao seal that was even more powerful than that of his parents. That terrifying person had cast at least a dozen heavenly Tao sealing techniques on him. Now that his heavenly energy had been banned, it would be difficult for him to escape. It was really, the flood had rushed against the temple of the Dragon King. Wang Zhen felt that he had most likely made a mistake. This person might not be the real thief. The thief had only stolen 1,500 heavenly Dao from him at most, and the person in front of him was clearly much, much stronger. This power was already far beyond what Wang Zhen could imagine. If that was the case, even if Baizhi gathered all 6 heretic paths, he might not be able to contend against it. For a moment, Wang Zhen lay in bed, his mind full of wild thoughts. The most important thing right now was to find a way to retrieve his sealed heavenly energy and then leave this place. Although Earth was only a lower realm in the eyes of everyone on Ninefold Star, but at the same time, Earth was also a planet with the most uncertainties. One had to know that the Wang family's Dao ancestor, the founder of Ninefold Star, had ascended from Earth. Wang Zhen sighed in his heart. In the end, he still underestimated the lower realm. At that moment, Wang Zhen heard footsteps approaching. "Senior, you're awake." It was Immortal Toya's voice. Then, Wang Zhen saw a man who looked like a celebrity. From his clothes, he looked like a doctor. "Senior, you've been unconscious for 2 days." Immortal Toya said, "You'll find that you can't move because Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch has cast several heavenly Dao restraints on you. It's mainly because I'm worried that you'll become emotional after you wake up and hurt me." "Hurt you?" "Yes, Senior. You suddenly attacked Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch for no reason. We all agreed that you're irritable, and might have a mental problem. We had no choice but to do this," Immortal Toya answered truthfully. Wang Zhen smiled bitterly in his heart. The other party kept calling him a senior, but in the end, was still worried that he was the kind of person who would willfully kill the innocent. It was true that people would indeed feel terrified when they were powerful, but Wang Zhen had always firmly believed in the principle that every injustice had its perpetrator, and every debt had its debtor. He would never harm the innocent. Just like back at Night Chief, a technician had angered Baizhi, and Baizhi had killed him in passing. In the end, it was Wang Zhen who rescued that innocent little brother. Did he really look like a devil? Did they need to treat him like this? He didn't understand. He was probably the senior with the least face, right? Wang Zhen sighed. "Then how long are you going to lock me up for?" Immortal Toya, "Since Senior has already woken up, I'll inform Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch right away. As long as I confirm that Senior isn't a threat, I can naturally help Senior release him. As long as I confirm that Senior isn't a threat, Senior currently has multiple heavenly Dao restraints on him, so he can't use any spells or even circulate his spirit energy normally. But if Senior is willing to promise me one thing, I can use the privilege Crispy Noodle's Dao Monarch gave me to unlock Senior's upper body first. It's fine if you can unlock half of it." Wang Zhen knew that he wasn't qualified to negotiate terms at the moment, and could only settle for the next best thing. Immortal Toya narrowed his eyes and said solemnly, "The reason why I'm being so cautious is because I'm worried that Senior will act impulsively and do something irreversible." Saying that, Immortal Toya took out a golden talisman. This was what Wang Ling had given him after casting multiple heavenly Dao seals the last time, and it could unlock Wang Zhen's mobility. But to be on the safe side, Immortal Toya only restored Wang Zhen's upper body and prepared a wheelchair for him. Then, Wang Zhen saw Immortal Toya's hands directly slip into his waist and legs. Wang Zhen was startled. "What the hell? What are you doing?" Carrying Senior into the wheelchair, Immortal Toya answered very naturally. "Then I really have to thank you." Wang Zhen never thought that not only would he be paralyzed in the world below, he would also be carried in a princess carry. "You're welcome, Senior." Immortal Toya smiled slightly. If his friends in the world above knew about this, where would he put his old face? Wang Zhen still hadn't come back to his senses when Immortal Toya put him into the wheelchair. Who was he? Where was he? What was he doing? Why had he come down to the world below to look for a thief, only to run into this? Could it be that he was retribution for running away from the wedding? Wang Zhen dropped his forehead into his hand. Senior, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? My head hurts. Immortal Toya took out a kitchen knife. I can prepare a craniotomy for Senior. Wang Zhen, no, it doesn't hurt anymore. Very well, Senior, if you feel uncomfortable, you must tell me. Immortal Toya narrowed his eyes and smiled. Wang Zhen felt like he had seen through this doctor's character a little. It turned out that this guy was a hidden sicko. Wang Zhen, by the way, what do you want me to help you with? Immortal Toya, it's like this, Senior, I treated a female patient a while ago, and she's been in a severe coma for a long time. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch thinks that she might be from your hometown. Hometown. She's from the world above. Wang Zhen immediately shook his head. That's unlikely. There were many procedures to go through to get from the world above to the world below, and one had to go through a unified approval process before they were allowed to use the portal. The problem was that Wang Zhen was very sure that he was the only person who had used the portal recently. Then Senior, take a look first. Immortal Toya pushed Wang Zhen in the wheelchair to the Kuan belly girl. When he saw the girl's face clearly, Wang Zhen was so scared that he almost fell off the wheelchair. I can tell you what you want to know, but before that, you have to agree to a few conditions. Senior, tell me about it. I need to leave this place, as long as I'm not by Miss Lu's side. I don't want her to see me after she wakes up. Also, I hope that you will keep the fact that you have seen me a secret. Finally, if I tell you what I know, that Senior Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch must lift the seal on me. Yes. It doesn't sound like excessive conditions. Immortal Toya nodded. But can I ask why Senior is avoiding this Miss Lu like a snake or scorpion? Wang Zhen's face darkened. She's my fiancée, Senior, your fiancée. Immortal Toya was shocked at this answer. But why would this girl be in the belly of a rotten Kuan? Wang Zhen had been wondering earlier why on earth Lu Qingyi had come to the world below. To come to the world below, one had to report and use a portal to come here. Now that he heard Immortal Toya say this, Wang Zhen instantly understood. It turned out that this guy was deliberately hiding in the Kuan's belly. Thinking this, Wang Zhen couldn't help throwing his head back and letting out a long howl as he lamented, I brought this on myself. I can't live. On the other side, President Bai was also collecting the power of Outer Dao at the same time. The 6 Great Outer Dao represented 6 ultimate abilities: 7-star Devil Escape, Immunity to Physical Damage, Yin-Yang Escape Technique, Magic Injury Immunity, Mind Cleansing Magic Ring, Abnormal Immunity, 5 Elements Ghost Spell, Elemental Enslavement, Firmament's Fury, Outer Dao Punishment, and the Reverse Polarity. That President Bai grasped symbolized the power to defy the heavens and change fate. At that moment, President Bai had arrived at the edge of a cliff shrouded in clouds and mist. This was a place in Mishio Nation called Valley of the Dead. It had once been a holy land for cliff jumping, and countless people had jumped to the bottom of the valley from here. Corpses were piled up at the bottom of the valley, and the yin aura was extremely heavy. Now, it had instead become a tourist attraction. Cultivators who weren't afraid of death often organized group tours and rode special magic artifacts to come here for sightseeing. However, there had been fewer and fewer people over the years, because there had been a lot of disappearances in Dead Man Valley in the last few years. Cultivation groups who came for sightseeing, and even planes that flew over Dead Man Valley, had mysteriously disappeared in this area. 5 Elements Ghost Spell is here. President Bai's figure swayed in the wind, and his voice sounded a little ethereal through the clouds and mist. Nowadays, normal people didn't dare approach this place. If it wasn't for the fact that Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had obtained this true immortal body, President Bai would have been a little cowardly. A giant centipede climbed onto President Bai's shoulder as Long Ming used the soul insect technique to remotely control it. I've already inspected the bottom of the valley according to Venerable One's orders. As expected, there's something unusual about this place. There were many poisonous insects in Dead Man Valley, and Insect Envoy Long Ming's insect mastery technique played a vital role here. Even though it was extremely dangerous down there, as long as there were insects, Long Ming could control them to investigate. Even if the insects accidentally died, his body wouldn't be affected in the slightest. The Dragon Clan's insect mastery technique was a secret technique that was as famous as the White Clan's creation spell back then. When Night Ghost Spirit Emperor established Night Chief, he had recruited people from all over, and naturally had drawn Long Ming to his side. In fact, Long Ming's and President Bai's experiences were shockingly similar. Dead Man Valley hasn't been peaceful all these years, and I've long suspected that the power of Outer Dao might have fallen here. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to investigate, but now it looks like I'm 90% certain. What kind of Outer Dao is the 5 Elements Ghost spell? Asked Long Ming. This is the power of elemental enslavement. As long as you can master this spell, you can control the 5 elements and create all kinds of primordial spirits. The leaders of the 5 great primordial spirits are all true immortals. With their assistance, our battle strength will naturally increase greatly. President Bai looked excited as he gazed at the bottom of the cliff. I can't help but get excited. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.